I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Lawson.
In addition to dentist, he might be a public speaker someday, right? All right, great job, thank you. Recognitions tonight. Super great evening to be recognizing some leaders in our community. Ms. Cordell.
Yes, good evening, board. We are so proud to have Casey Havens here with us this evening. Recently, I was down in Austin at our State Board of Education's meeting where we had the honor of being present as Casey Havens was honored with the State Board of Education Heroes for Children Award. I cannot think of anyone more deserving of this recognition. Casey has contributed years of dedicated and selfless service to the children of our school district as well as the educators. We could not be more grateful for her profound impact. She has a genuine heart and is always problem solving, working to include everyone with a spirit of wanting to make sure that we are providing the best possible education and school community for all of our stakeholders. She serves in a formal leadership role as our PTO Council President, and we are so grateful for Casey and her contributions, and would also like to recognize her family, because we know when there is a volunteer of this level in the family, that it really is a gift that the whole rest of the family sacrifices for as well. So thank you all so much. And we have Pam Little here, State Board of Education as well, to be part of this recognition. And we are just so honored to have Pam Little as part of our community. And Pam was the one that honored Casey with this recognition recently in Austin. And I don't know, Pam, if you would like to say a few words.
you're still up.
I am. Our next recognition is for Mayor Bain Brooks, Mayor of the City of Allen. A couple years ago, I happened to be at a community event with Mayor Brooks, and he made a very valuable connection for us with my community credit union. He knew the people at my community credit union were looking for a public school district to go into a partnership with to make sure that students are receiving a strong financial literacy education. And he wanted to make sure that Lovejoy ISD had the opportunity to benefit from this public-private partnership and provide our students with opportunities that they otherwise would not have. And we are so grateful for his leadership and for the fact that he is always looking to make connections that benefit our community and, most importantly, our students in their future. So we have a recognition this evening for Mayor Bain Brooks.
All right, Dr. Tinsley.
We continue with the recognitions tonight. So we are proud to recognize a very large group of Lovejoy High School students. We have 36 Lovejoy High School students who've been recognized in the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program. And I'm going to ask Principal Wheeler to come up tonight, and he's going to share a little bit more information about the recognitions, and then we're going to have our kiddos come up here tonight.
Good evening, everyone, members of the board, Superintendent Cordell, community members. Give me a second. There's a lot of certificates that I have to get situated. Students, if you can come join me, are students that are being recognized as National Merit Scholars. And we're going to line up going back this way. You're going to be announced alphabetically. We should have done some prep work before this. Timer's going, ready, go. All right, so as they get situated, I'm going to tell you a little bit of background and just some information on why this is so special. I think I made a mistake because now they got to talk to each other. As long as you're close, guys. All right. So our National Merit Scholar, or the National Merit Scholar program, over 1.3 million students take the preliminary test, and that comes from SAT and other qualifying, or PSAT and other qualifying assessments. From that 1.3 million students, they narrow it down to the 50,000 highest scores nationwide. So the students that are standing here in front of you are a part of a small percentage of students across the nation that are going to be recognized with this award. And for us as a campus to have 36 students that were recognized as commended is a huge accomplishment. So before I call each of them up here, can we give these students a round of applause for all their hard work? And then I'd like to also take a second just to recognize the parents that are here to support them, because without your involvement and your support, you know that your students would not be standing here in front of us today. So thank you. So the following students were recognized as commended students. Alicia Bemis. I don't think Alicia's here. Caleb Bourne. Congrats. Okay. Camden Bratz. Sanvi Charuku. Riley Constant. Emily Dillon. Congratulations. Luke Doyle. Congrats, Luke. Noah George. Congrats, Noah. Nathan Kinzer. Congratulations. Jackson Latour. Congratulations. Sophia Lee. Congratulations, Sophia. Gavin Micheletto. I had to take a second and look at the phonetical spelling. Congratulations. Pari Palani. Kevin Porter. Jackson Reed. Congrats, Jackson. Emerson Runyons. Koo Scott. Congratulations, Koo. Mega Siri Parupu. Anishka Valanki. Christopher Wang. David Wang. Okay, now the second list of students that we have, we're going to recognize our National Merit semifinalists. So from that 50,000 students that we mentioned before, 6,807 merit scholarships are awarded to our semifinalists. So our semifinalists will continue to submit some paperwork, some essays, do some other work to work to get that scholarship. So from that 50,000, 16,000 are named as National Merit semifinalists. So the following students are semifinalists. Ali Ahmad. Congratulations. Victoria Burchett. Luca Campbell. Andy Choi. Liam Dunleavy. Neola Edwin. Lucas Liu. Garrett Payne. Robert Schnur. Marissa Waldrop. And Aubrey Williams.
Very impressive, outstanding. Thank you so much for being here. All right, item 7 tonight
Yes, thank you.
is public comments related to the September 30, 24 agenda items.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Board and Superintendent Cordell. We have one public comment this evening, which is agenda item number 12. So President Owens, with your permission, I'll read the statement. Okay. The Board of Trustees encourages public comment. All public comment at a meeting other than a regularly scheduled meeting should be limited to agenda items posted for the meeting. By signing up to provide public comment at a board meeting, you are acknowledging and accepting the procedures for public comment available online at lovejoyisd.net. Any individual seeking to speak during the public comment session of a regular board meeting must complete and submit the public comment card no later than 15 minutes prior to the designated start time provided on the meeting notice. Public comment cards must be completed in their entirety with accurate and truthful information and must designate whether the speaker is speaking on a specific agenda item. Failure to designate an agenda item relevant to the speaker's comments will result in the classification of the public comment as a non-agenda item comment to be heard later time in the meeting. Public comment cards are only applicable to the meeting in which they are completed and submitted by the established deadline. Each individual will have one opportunity per meeting to share their comments with the Board of Trustees, not multiple opportunities per individual agenda item. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the speaker forfeits the opportunity to speak at the meeting. All speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. The presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the number of minutes per speaker that will be recognized in the order in which the person signs up. If there are more speakers than time allotted for public comment, the amount of time per speaker may be reduced as determined appropriate by the Board of Trustees. If time does not allow for you to speak at a public comment, the Board of Trustees may allow additional time for public comment or defer specific agenda items for review at a subsequent meeting in an effort to allow more public comment as determined necessary by the Board. The public comment card will not be maintained from one meeting to the next and is only applicable to the meeting on the date in which it was submitted. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or a specific student issue, you're encouraged to utilize the district's grievance procedures provided in the board policies, DGBA local, FNG local, and GF local, or applicable grievance processes. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the Board of Trustees. All relevant policies are available online at lovejoyisd.net. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated in the meeting. If after the provision of a single warning, the disruptive behavior continues, the disruptive individual may be escorted out of the meeting by district officials and/or law enforcement. It is a criminal offense for any person with intent to prevent or disrupt the lawful meeting to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of a meeting by physical action or verbal utterance. The Board of Trustees appreciates your active participation in the school district. With that said, we have one speaker, Ms. Cassie Webb, and we'll have you state your name, address, and if you have students attending the district for the record.
My name is Cassie Webb. I live at 1612 Silverleaf Lane, Allen 75002. I have 3 children at Puster.
Thank you, and I'll start your time now.
Okay. In February, I stood here and responded to annual Lovejoy program cuts calling for civic involvement. Parents stepped up and created a grassroots, nonpartisan movement with bipartisan impact, now known as the Lovejoy Advocates. Collectively, we have held our state senator and representative accountable. We fact-checked the governor's narrative by calculating our district credits and debits from scratch and declaring ourselves the extreme outliers in an already shallow funding pool. Our strategy involved soliciting multiple individual allotment increases, GT, small to mid-size, SPED, dyslexia, teacher incentive, and safety allotments, all while being clear that a significant basic allotment increase must be skeletal to the fleshing out of meaningful reparations. Meanwhile, Lovejoy parents kept calling, emailing, posting their grievances, demanding solutions. A total of 5 members of the Texas House, 3 senators, and counting have personally met with us to acknowledge the unsuitable provision and hear our outcry for restitution. Our combined forces apparently pressured one official into writing this in her newsletter. One school district in the area blasted me for supporting House Bill 1. They had an organization associated with the district send out a call to tell me to vote against the school finance bill. I had several hundred calls from people, applause. Y'all, that's incredible. Several hundred calls from people living in that district. I'd like to note that the other school districts in our area were supportive or at least silent, end quote. I asked in February, can we count on people on the ballot to advocate for us in Austin? After several months, it's complicated, needlessly, because we've got to keep up the good work, Lovejoy advocates. Even our rep says that we have saturated our Lovejoy market. Despite us, our senator indicates that her plans are already firm. Because of us, our representative, on the other hand, currently teeters between mutually exclusive priorities. Advocates hear this next step, partnership with a host of other House district constituents. We need to replicate our success in each district: Wiley, Allen, McKinney, Plano, Princeton, Farmersville Community, and Royce City. Calling, emailing, posting. Retirement communities must also know their neighborhood schools are suffering constitutional neglect. Board of Trustees, will you help us convince other school districts to use their voice too? Lovejoy isn't a standalone problem. 2025 will either be the midpoint or the turning point of the otherwise most anemic funding decade for my 3 young kids to be in public schools. Texas is the 8th largest world economy? No excuses. Austin, do you copy? What is the plan for pub ed? Thank you.
All right. President Owens, Board of Trustees, that's all of our comments for this evening.
Thank you. And thank you for those comments. Next up tonight is our celebration of learning, Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mrs. Mullins and Mrs. Perez to come up to the other podium. We are excited tonight to bring forward to you a involvement that we started engaging in conversation last year about this, working with the Texas Workforce Commission on teacher externships. And we had several teachers from Willow Springs Middle School that participated, and I'm going to have Mrs. Mullins and Mrs. Perez share with you about this program and the experience that Mrs. Perez had in the externship over the summer.
Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Good evening, Board, Superintendent Cordell, and Lovejoy community. I'm Mary Mullen, Director of Secondary Education Assessment and Accountability. As Dr. Tinsley mentioned, about a year ago, Jan Youngman, a former Lovejoy ISD teacher who now works for the Allen Economic Development Corporation, approached me and said that the local Workforce Commission was awarded a large grant from the Texas Workforce Commission for providing externships to teachers in the area, and wanted to know if Lovejoy was interested. I set up a meeting with Dr. Tinsley and Dr. Zambezi and Ms. Youngman, and she told us all about what the externship involved. Up here, it's called the I Work 2024 Teacher Externship, and what it is, it's a short-term job shadowing experience for educators to learn from professionals in a chosen industry. And when I say educators, it could be anyone: counselors, paraprofessionals, transition teachers. It didn't have to be exclusively general education teachers could participate in the externship. And what it involves is the Workforce Commission sends a survey to the teachers, and they fill out what their interest is and prioritize where they might want to be placed. And with that information, the Workforce Commission then matches them up with a cooperating industry partner in the area. So these are industries that say they do want to participate in the program, and they are matched us based on the survey results. So the experience that the teachers have spans over 5 days, anytime during the month of June to August. It can be once a week that they meet. It can be 5 days in a row. It can be 2 days a week for 3 weeks. However, they set it up with their partner. And they have an opportunity to network and make connections. And based on what they learn during their externship, they're required to create a lesson plan and also demonstrate their knowledge in some way of what they've learned. They turn that into me, and then I review it and approve it and let the Workforce Commission know that they have fulfilled their requirements. So it's a great opportunity for us to network with area industries and start building some partnerships. The teachers that participated did receive a $1,000 stipend, and they were required to attend a short mandatory orientation session, work with the industry to set up a schedule for the summer, and then create those lesson plans and turn in timesheets. So this has become a very popular program. 25 school districts in the area are participating, and so capacity is very limited. We were only given 5 seats, and we filled 4 of the 5, and all the teachers came from Willow Springs by chance. The participating teachers were Reagan Campbell, our grade 7 ARLA teacher, and her industry partner was MD7 in Allen. Laura Rogers, 8th grade RLA teacher, and her industry partner was Banner Roofing, and Ashley Smith, the 7th grade math teacher, and her partner was McKinney Parks and Recreation. And the 4th person is Jennifer Perez.
Hello, board and Lovejoy community. Mary Mullen approached me last year to see if this would be something I'd be interested in, and I said, sure. So I got partnered with My Possibilities. If you've not heard of My Possibilities, it is an amazing school next to the North Texas Food Bank, and it is for students over the age of 21 who have some type of disability. And what's fascinating is there is really no other place for them to go. And a group of mothers came together about 15 years ago and on a little cocktail napkin wrote their plans for this school. And there are adults there that, you know, are in their 40s, because we forget that that is a big segment of our population that doesn't have something to do. So what they did is they created this beautiful school you can see from the picture there. My heart grew 10 sizes by going through the externship, because there is so much love in that school. But I got to see what they do. So depending on their disabilities, some are highly functioning and they go through a different route where they can get certifications to work in the food industry. They can get certifications to work as like custodial and get jobs. Many of them do work at the school as well, doing some of those things. And then they go through a class. It's just like being in our classes. And a fun story, well, here's a few more things. So 250,000 people in North Texas have some type of intellectual development disability. I was kind of shocked by those numbers because I don't think we publicize them. And we have those, like as a teacher, we have them in our school. And you forget what's going to happen to them once they're out of the system at 21. So this is an amazing place. They're called hipsters, very important people. They learn different skills. Some of them just take regular classes, and I got to sit on classes and help them. In the morning, when they go in the morning, they do breathing exercises and they talk about their emotions. They have little tags that tell them what their schedule is, but they knew my name like that. And they would say, hi, Jenny, hi, Jenny. So, and some of them didn't talk a whole lot, but they would know me. So it was a wonderful experience for me. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I look forward to going back and volunteering there again. A fun story is I was in a classroom and the bell had already rung, but somebody knocked on the door. And I opened the door for the student and I was like, that girl looks really familiar. And she sat next to me and I said, what's your name? And she went by a different name, but I said, let me see your name tag. And she was a student that I taught in 8th grade here at Lovejoy. So it was very fun to see her as an adult working to do some different things. And then we had that conversation because I taught her brother too. But Collin County was doing a great thing for those students, and I as an educator, I was hoping, as a science teacher, I told Mary, I was hoping that I was going to get into a lab and see what they do in the lab, but this is what I got, and it was really rewarding to be there. So I wrote a lesson plan about possibilities and everybody's potential, whether you have a disability or not. So it was a great experience. So thank you for that opportunity.
One last thing I would like to add is when I was reviewing the lesson plans that were submitted, here are some things that the teachers wrote into their plans. And the expectations and the levels of thinking are phenomenal. Critical analysis, real-world application, consequences of incorrect actions, research and providing evidence, counter arguments, and the list goes on. The partners, the industry partners' feedback was so positive, as well as the externships. They want us to come back and participate, bring the kids, and really get involved in what's going on out in the community. So hopefully in the future, we can participate again and be invited. Any questions?
I have several questions. This is interesting to me. Did you know when you volunteered what you were, it was just a blind luck
Well, I
on?
knew it was going to be an industry partner, so like I said, I was thinking, oh, well, might be fun. I'm a science teacher, I'll go see what they do in the lab, and then I could bring that back to my kids in the classroom, because I know it had STEM affiliations. And then when I got partnered, I was at a school, which was great. I'm an educator for 30 years, so I definitely have that background. But for me, it was fascinating because I've been in the public system all my years of teaching, to see how hard those teachers were working with kids with disabilities, but how they were functioning.
And have you collaborated with the other, so I guess they were all Willow teachers. Did y'all all kind of talk about volunteering for this before you threw your name in the hat, or
Well,
is that
I
part of
saw
the?
a few people when Mary had she had a meeting in the library, but it was through an email. So I think I saw a couple people. Laura's a really good friend of mine, and I didn't know till the summer when we were going to go out to lunch together. I was like, well, I have to see what my schedule is for, I'm doing this externship thing. And she was doing it too, and I didn't know that. So
And
that
that
was
was
fun to have that commonality.
And so what was the time commitment? How, over the summer, how long were you?
So we had
working.
to go, before school ended, I had to go to a meeting with Texas Workforce. And so that was interesting, filling out all the forms and making sure that, we had fingerprints on us and things like that. Then I had to meet with my industry partner. That was kind of hard to get that set up because they're busy too, and we're probably at the bottom of their list. Once that was set up, you're kind of at the mercy of what they want you. I thought I'd do a day a week, but she wanted me for one full week, and it took her a while to get the schedule because she might have had, I'm sure on her end, to know what classes I could be in and which ones.
So that somewhat depends on where you get placed, on what the scheduling is and how
So
often.
I did a full week in July.
Gotcha. And then last question, maybe more for you, Mary. So you mentioned we had 5 slots, but we were only able to fill 4 of them. This seems like an amazing opportunity for more participation. I mean, how do you anticipate this projecting into future years?
Yeah, well, we actually did fill all 5, but the 5th person was promoted to a position here at the district level, and then she's also fulfilling commitments for national board certification. So she decided to decline. And by that time, school was out, and I didn't have the contact to fill that position.
But we anticipate trying to keep this ongoing
Yes,
and
yes.
possibly grow it for
Mhm.
if it's
And
available.
I actually was on the wait list. When
Yes,
Mary first
yeah.
told me, she said I didn't have a spot. And then some things came through, and I was like, okay. But that's me. Okay, I'll do it.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item 99, Maureen, could you lead us in our invocation, please?
Sure, Barrett. Bow your heads. Dear God, thank you so much for all these wonderful staff, parents, and our students. Thank you for the great volunteers like Casey and many, many others that weren't recognized tonight. Be with us as we deliberate and consider tonight's agenda. Amen.
All right, item 10 is notification items only. Those are in your board book. And then next up is item 11, our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would want pulled for further review in the consent agenda? And if there's none, I would consider a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move, Jason James.
Second.
Second, Marvin Bobo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 12, discussion and possible action on the Board Legislative Subcommittee Charter. scrolling to that, so bear with me 1 second. There.
Mr. Percival, we'll let you get there. Board Legislative Subcommittee Charter.
What's up? Yes, ma'am.
You have,
All right, so we met as our first meeting with the newly formed legislative subcommittee for this year, and we thought it was important. We had a charter in place the last couple of years, and we wanted to revisit that kind of founding document as a committee. The landscape legislatively right now is a little bit different than it was a few years ago when we first formed the committee. We just really wanted to go back and look at it from the 10,000-foot view, I think, and make sure we had a document in place to give us kind of our founding organization around what our purpose was. So we put this together as a committee, went through some revisions, and really just, I think it is pretty, I don't want to say basic, but I think it captures the priorities that we want to be thinking about as far as a committee. We want to monitor any legislation that could have impact on our district and anything having to do with whether it's procedural or any kind of mandates, or especially anything that impacts us financially. We want to be able to, on an annual basis, recommend legislative priorities that are important to us to add, whether we're thinking about it as how it, the priorities for our district. We want to definitely focus on engaging with elected representatives, both our direct representatives here, and then also any other representatives across the state and locally that might help us in these efforts. And then also making sure we have a point talking about collaboration, communication, and education amongst the board and also within the community. So those were the 4 points that we pulled out. Similar to what we had previously, but I think a little bit more focused maybe than what we had done before. So that gives us a little bit more direction on how we're going to be thinking about things. We're going to use this document to then organize a calendar. We're committed as a committee to meet on a monthly basis, and then report back as we meet and collaborate to the board on a monthly basis as well.
thank you for that update, Jason.
And I would just add that at a future meeting, we'll be bringing forward on drafts of the legislative priorities, which is kind of a breathing, living document that will change over time and get focused as necessary. We just kind of put some broad strokes to it at this point, based on our both regular session priorities last legislative session and our special session legislative priorities. We've kind of combined and simplified and put some more direct purpose into exactly what we're asking and kind of tweaking how we're asking. But the priorities in general will cover a lot of the same bases that were unaddressed in the last legislative session and that are of vital importance to our school district and a lot of public school districts in the state of Texas.
I know we all very greatly appreciate you all for doing this. Thank you on behalf of the whole board and our community. I absolutely love this document. I think it's very clear, it's concise. I think for as complicated as these issues are, I think the clearer we can be in communication, the more effective we can be. So I really appreciate this charter and think it looks really great. Thank y'all.
One thing, I appreciate that, Amy. One thing I'll add, I mentioned we're organizing a calendar on where we're going to be focusing on different outreach efforts throughout the year. We're also talking about putting together additional documents. One would be our drafted legislative priorities that'll get more specific about that, but then also something that we could possibly have as a one-page document that community members could use in their own advocacy efforts. So those things will be forthcoming. Barrett's asked me to be kind of point person for this committee for this year, so if anybody has ideas or you have questions, feel free to reach out to me on those things as well as members of the community.
All right, thank you for those updates, and we'll just have more forthcoming as they've discussed. Item 13 tonight is discussion and possible action on a resolution to nominate candidates for the Colin Cadd Board of Directors. So let me back up to item 12. Let's go ahead and take action to adopt the charter as presented. Skipping over that. So if you would, I'd entertain a motion for item 12, which is our Board Legislative Subcommittee charter.
I move we approve the Board Legislative Subcommittee Charter.
Second.
So moved Amy Smith, second Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to item 13, as stated, discussion and possible action on a resolution to nominate candidates for the Colin Cadd Board of Directors. And so I would just open this for discussion and or interest. You all have had a chance to look at the application, and I think from prior years you've understood what that board service looks like. I'd be happy to discuss that in more detail. Does anybody have individuals interested in serving in this capacity on the Colin Cadd board? Does anyone have interest? If so, I'd love to hear that.
Barrett, I don't know if you guys have been following what's been going on in the Fort Worth CAD and how that could have an impact on school districts. I'm glad that we're definitely focusing on what our wonderful CAD does for us, what it cost us, and what they do for us. And so with that in mind, I would love to volunteer to be nominated if that's something the board would like to do.
And we would, speaking for myself, I'd love to see you serve. We haven't had a candidate serve in this capacity directly with the district in the past. And so I'd be grateful to nominate you. Any others have interest or any other comments regarding Marvin's service?
Thank you, Marvin. I just want to confirm, are we allowed to hold 2 public positions? Has somebody confirmed that? We are?
I guess I should have checked that out ahead of time, but I believe we can because there are other board members who do serve on the CAD currently.
So with that, we have one potential nominee. If you guys are supportive, I would consider a motion to nominate Marvin Bobo for the Colin Cadd Board of Directors.
I have a motion to nominate Marvin Bobo for the Colin Cadd Board of Directors.
Second.
So move Mark Wheelis, second Jason James. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Marvin. Item 14 is a presentation on existing bond funds and project updates. Mr. Wellman.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. So as part of the district priority number 4, we plan towards effective operations through process improvements. And tonight, we would like to share an improvement in our process as part of the district's monthly financial review package in order to increase communication and visibility and to approve projects funded through the use of bond funds. Okay. So each month, we will provide a bond project update as part of the monthly financial package. This report will provide an update on the cash inflows generated through the interest earnings from the remaining bond proceeds, a list of current approved projects with year-to-date spend amounts, and a status update on whether they're completed or still a work in progress. And then finally, we'll also show our remaining bond funds that are available for the future projects. So here on this first slide, we're showing since 2019, the district has sold bonds stemming from the last voter-approved bond package in 2014, totaling $24.25 million, with the most recent sale being in May of '24 for the $9.5 million. The district has also been able to leverage interest earnings totaling $576,000 to support ongoing and future projects. So here's just a list of all the projects dating back to 2019, the 2019 bonds. As you can see here, that almost all of our projects have come in at or under budget, under budget, allowing the district the extra flexibility to address future needs. So over the past 5 years, the district approved projects totaling just over $16.6 million, with a year-to-date spend on these projects of roughly $4.8 million. So with that, all that being said, here we're showing finally the remaining bond funds that are available for future capital needs, totaling roughly just under $9.8 million. So we have roughly $139,000 left from our 2021 bonds, and then $9.6 million from the 2024 bonds. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So overall, 9.8 million left.
That's correct, yes.
And growing with monthly interest.
That's correct, yes.
A comment, Jason? I couldn't hear you.
That it continues to grow with monthly interest accrued. Yep.
Is there a deadline on the use of those funds?
That when we sell the bonds, we tell them that we're going to exhaust the funds within 3 years. So we have to make a good faith effort to exhaust them within 3 years.
How many years are we in on the 2021?
So we're wrapping up the 3 years. So we've done a good job of spending down a majority of it. So if we go beyond the 3 years, it's not a big deal. But if we still had more than 50% of it, then it would be of concern.
Thank you for the update, Thomas.
Thank you.
All right, item 15 is Capital Planning Committee update. Mr. Percival.
Good evening. So as you guys may recall, we started off the year and kind of reactivated the Capital Planning Committee, and we recently completed our third meeting of the semester last Tuesday night, and so I wanted to provide a quick update. But before I do, I wanted to give a shout out to our committee members from the community. These members, most of them were with us throughout last spring. We had a total of 6 meetings in the spring, and were brave enough to return, committed enough to return to the committee. And so we completed that third meeting last Tuesday night, and we will have our 4th meeting of the semester tomorrow night. But on last Tuesday night, on the 24th, we did a quick review of a homework assignment that we gave out to the committee right before we had finished meeting 2. Meeting 2, there was a curation report that was presented. Committee members left that night of meeting 2, took that report home, and were asked to go through the report and bring back maybe one thing they noticed that was a highlight, and maybe something that they noticed that was a question mark. So we went through that. And then VOK Architects presented on an educational adequacy assessment that was customized just for our district. Each campus was scored utilizing that component, which looked at over 80 different touch points. It was an interesting conversation. We have some very dedicated people in the room that hold our district near and dear to their heart. And so when they see things that don't come back at a 5 out of 5, they get a little... well, they just don't like it. And so our campuses didn't score out of 5 out of 5 because that's not where we're at currently, our current state. And so it exposed some areas that we're aware of, but it also kind of shed some light on maybe some areas that we weren't. And then we went through essentially, we did some walks of buildings virtually. They took us through a transformative building renovations for campuses that are similar to the ones that we have in our district that are in area districts that have already gone through this process, just to kind of give us an idea of what we could expect in the event that we wanted to go that direction at some point as a district. And this is just a few photos of that work together last Tuesday night. Lots of good conversations were had for sure from the table groups and then reported out to the group. And then, like I said, tomorrow night will be our fourth and final long-range facility planning portion of these meetings. And so the committee tables are going to work through a consensus to build out or at least highlight some of the areas for consideration on both the 5-year and a 10-year long-range facility plan. So that's the work that will be completed tomorrow during that fourth meeting. And then I just want to showcase those dates at the bottom down there. Those are all pending a bond planning committee. If the board considers to move that direction, those would be the draft dates that those meetings would take place. Any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so on the capital planning committee meetings. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 16, moving on to the bond planning committee process.
Before Mr. Percival jumps in with an introduction to this item, I would like to frame this board, as you know, from Kyle preparing the prior information in regard to the capital planning committee, that this very dedicated group of community members has their final meeting tomorrow evening of that capital planning process. And as we propose next steps, we would like you to have the information you need to consider possible action on a bond planning committee. So this evening, Mr. Percival is going to introduce an outside facilitator who's going to take you through the process that we would utilize should you want to move forward with that. And then you'll see that the next item on the agenda relates to the presentation this evening. So I'll hand it off to Mr. Percival.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what I would like to do at this point is introduce Dr. Lizzie Johnson. Dr. Lizzie Johnson is a former classroom teacher, a former campus and district level administrator, and she's also the founder and CEO of Transcend 4. One of the unique things that Dr. Lizzie and her company offer is support and guidance for school districts that are considering moving through a bond planning phase or the work in consideration for a bond. So Dr. Johnson is going to take us through and kind of walk us through what that process might look like here in the district if the board decided to go that direction.
Very familiar. I've worked with you in the past, and it's great to be back. I always love to come to Lovejoy ISD, and so thank you so much for having me. And so tonight, I am going to go through an overview of the process of this next committee, and your district leadership and outside consultants had done a great job moving forward with setting them up with the right materials and the right information that now they can roll into the decision-making process if you do approve for them to put together a solid bond package that has your students' best interest in mind. And that's what we will build this from, is every question in that room will be about what's best for students. And that's how this committee will run. And so just tonight, I want to go through a brief overview of the process. So my role as the facilitator is to serve as the third-party advocate for the committee. And so my goal is that they turn to me when they need help, when they need guidance and assistance. I'm there to serve primarily as the middleman, you might say, between any architect in the room, financial advisor, demographer. My goal is to keep the process running smoothly and transparent and I want to make sure that all of the committee is heard. And so there's a lot of people in that room, but we have a great process that we do that. I was a middle school teacher, so I understand how to keep things under control. We do have a great meeting design. We have presentations, obviously, table discussions, questions by our committee. We want to ensure that at no time our committee is concerned. We want to make sure that they have all of the information they need. Sometimes I joke with them and tell them it's like they came to night school after they left work that day, because they're going to get so much data and information being a part of this committee. My goal is to be available to them. I will give every member in that room my cell phone number. They will have my email address. I like to be the point person for them because, you know, the district has a lot of people working here with a lot of knowledge. And if I can get the best and the deepest answer for them about their questions and concerns, then I will make sure the entire committee receives it. So in between those meetings that you saw that schedule, we'll have some downtime, and they'll be thinking and they'll be wondering about things. And so I always want them to contact me so that I'm able to get them the best answers that they deserve. And then I will help the district prepping in all the materials. And we also do have a great system where we debrief the next day after the meeting. And that's so we can make sure we haven't run up against anything that's going to cause angst in the room. We want to make sure we hear everything that was said that night. And so it's hard for me to be at every table during that committee process, and so we have some great facilitators who will sit at the table, district leadership, and they will be there just to support. They are not non-voting. They don't get a vote in putting the package together, but they're there just to help guide and support the table. And the next day they'll tell me, well, my table was really concerned about this. And then we make sure we address that in the next agenda. And so I do those debrief meetings because I think it's important that we make sure everything is brought up and processed for the committee. So end game, I always say you have to have an end game when you start a project, and that's for us to reach consensus and commitment about your facilities. And like I said, every decision in that room is going to be made about students. We want to make sure we keep them at the forefront of all of the decision making. So notice the draft watermark on here. I always point that out because people think, oh, they messed up on that slide. But we put that there because sometimes this changes. Sometimes these agendas ebb and flow because your committee may need something different. And so that's why I always have a draft watermark on there. So meeting one, we'll go through a lot of the process, the timeline, really inform them about what we're doing in that room, the vision, go through all of the agendas. People like to know what to expect when they come into a room like that. The committee charge from the board will be presented to them that night, and I like to say that's their instructions. So if they're at night school, that's their instructions of what they're doing in that room. And then I lead these adults through a gradient of decision making because a lot of times they come in this room and they've been in a silo workplace where they've only been the one to make the decisions for their part of the workday, and they're not working collaboratively, and I need them to work collaboratively in that room. And then we will look at any project since the prior bond, and then we'll have School Finance 101, where we explain the difference between M&O and INS funds, why we need bonds, talk about your ratings, your current tax rate, things of that nature. So they have a real solid foundation of school finance. I do believe they've received some of this, but we're going to put it in more terms of moving forward with the bond if that's the decision at that point. And then meeting two, we'll come back and your demographer will be there to talk about any of your data that deals with your student enrollment. And then that night we will go over facility needs assessment. This is not drilled down projects, this is just big picture. And so we'll talk about finance, about needs, about your demographics, and then on the meeting three, you'll notice that's a facility tour. So on a Saturday morning, we're gonna put all of these people in big yellow school buses, and they love it. They think it's the coolest thing ever, and we're gonna take them around the district and show them some really important things that they need to see because it becomes relative when they can see it. Pictures are great, but if they can walk in a building and really see the needs, it's very powerful to them. And then meeting four, we will come back and they will be given all of the project priorities. This is like you might say it's their menu if they were at a restaurant. And they're gonna see costs that night. And so as many of you are very aware, that's eye-opening to a person who owns a home. because the cost of school renovation and things of that nature has gone up. And so we will talk them through all of those projects and send them home with a worksheet where they're going to actually build the bond at home by themselves for the first time. I have to make sure that they work on the bond enough on the recommendation to the board that it's perfect. So the first time they're going to do that is at home with a worksheet. Then they're going to come back to meeting 5, and your financial advisor will come and present, all of the things about what your tax rate capacity is and what kind of dollar amount they can be looking towards as they plan this recommendation. And then they'll get their worksheet out and they're going to work in their groups that night at their tables. And that's when they'll build their second bond recommendation. And that night is where it really starts coming together, because as an individual, now they've pulled out this worksheet and they're going to start working collaboratively at the table. And then finally, we come back to meeting 6, and that's when the whole room is going to develop this bond package. So that's the third time. As a former educator, I realize sometimes people need to do things a few times before they get it right. And so we're going to make sure that the recommendation brought to you from the committee is perfect and that it's something that the entire committee really has committed to. So I always like to show the board these 2 slides that I use. I use these with the committee every night. I talk about it. But you can walk in a room and you can be a little unsure about something, be a little unsure about a decision that night. But honestly, we have to let the process unfold. So I explain the gradients of agreement to these adults so they understand just because they don't 100% agree with something doesn't mean they have to stop it in its tracks. And that's where the push and pull comes into place. We keep them at the same table with the same members all 6 meetings. And that's very prescriptive because I need them to get comfortable with each other and I need them to be very honest with each other. And if I keep moving them around the room and around tables, they'll never feel that comfort. But they do, I promise you, when they stay at those tables, they get real comfortable with each other and they're very open and honest. And then this other slide that I use with them is the dynamics of group decision making. So when you enter a room and a new topic is introduced, a lot of times we all pick a side. We diverge to that zone. And in the middle of that comes the grown zone. And that's what they will do at their tables every night. They're going to have a lot of conversation, a lot of table talk, a lot of question asking. And then eventually we all have to funnel to converge to a decision point. And I explained this to the committee because the meetings that I facilitate are very time driven. When I tell a committee we're starting at 6 and ending at 8, you can bet that that will happen. We never stay late. Now, if they want to have a separate meeting in the parking lot after the meeting's over, that's fine, but Lizzie Johnson is not facilitating that meeting. And so we have to make sure we stay on schedule, that we honor their time. They are there as a public servant in a way, and we want to make sure that we're good stewards to them. And so the big point on this slide is that one thing that does not stop for our decision making is time, and that's why we have to have agendas and we have to have a very timed meeting so that we make sure we get them all of the information they want. When you think about it, we really only have 5 sit-down meetings, and that's 2 hours each. That's 10 hours that they have to work. And so that's why we have to make sure we get through all of this information and get them everything that they need. And so, your group that's established really mirrors this. You have a lot of good people in that room. A lot of different groups are represented. We're also going to have students at these tables. And I think that's very important. Students are your clients, and adults want to talk to them about their experiences in these schools. And so we will have a student at each table, and we will make sure that there's a good rubric of all of these people, because ultimately not everybody in Lovejoy ISD can be in this group, but they have to identify with someone who is. And that way they can call on that person, they can ask them what's happening in those meetings, and they can see someone that mirrors their opinions. And so at that point, that is my presentation about what I will be doing with the committee and working them through the process. They will own this recommendation. It's theirs. And at the end, they will actually bring it to you. A couple of members from that committee and a couple of students will bring you the recommendation and present it to you in January. Excuse me? Yep. January's our final meeting, the board presentations in February. And so, as per that schedule that Kyle showed you earlier. So at this time, I'd like to see if there's any questions.
So I participated in the last bond committee here in the district. That was, I guess, 11-plus years ago now. This seems like a very, very different process than I remember. I don't remember having a third-party facilitator as part of that process then. I'm assuming there's some costs associated with your services to facilitate this, and I don't know if that is like ongoing negotiations on your services, but can you help us understand the differences between having a third party like yourself facilitate this and understanding how the cost is justified?
Sure, absolutely. One thing I can do is I can stand up in that room and tell the committee that no architect has paid me, no demographer, no financial advisor who may benefit later when that bond passes. And I love my architect friends, but I'm going to be real honest with you. I will see nothing after this. I have a flat fee that I charge the district pays me, and it keeps it very clean so that no one can ever say, well, Lizzie was heavy-handed in that because she knew there was a portion of that she may receive after that bond passes. It never happens. So that's one thing. That's one benefit to the district and to the committee. Like I said earlier, I've become their advocate. The second thing is you have a lot of qualified and professional staff in this district who have a lot of priorities, student outcomes being one, teacher effectiveness, safety and security. What I can do is come in and I can lead this process and make sure that it's done seamlessly and that I really do take the burden off of those administrators who have a full plate already. And, I'm available 24/7 to the district and I'm here to guide you. We've been facilitating bond campaigns bond committees for over 8 years now, and have been highly successful throughout the state of Texas.
And then talk a little bit about the application process, because that's another thing. I think, from what I remember, the last time we did this, it was more just volunteer if you want to be a part of it. I can only imagine that there's going to be some conspiracies about if there's an application process. We're trying to keep out anybody that's not going to be in favor of whatever the administration is proposing or what might be needed. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Mr. James, great question. I'm glad you brought that forward. We will actually handle the application process, and what that will look like is we have current members that are part of the Capital Planning Committee. Those very loyal, dedicated people who have put in considerable hours would be invited to continue without filling out an application. They would just have to let us know, and we would be fortunate to have their background knowledge from all the time that they have put in. And then should you all choose to move forward with this, then tomorrow we would launch an application to our community for community members to apply to be part of that effort. And we want as many voices and perspectives at the table as possible.
So is there, I guess to follow up, how can, I'm definitely in favor of having as many perspectives and voices. I think having people that have concerns about a bond package and the tax impact and all these things, inviting them to participate in that process, I don't know what kind of assurances we can have that that's going to be an open and transparent application process, but whatever we can do to ensure that, I'd be in favor of.
And we are happy to send the full board a list of all the applicants.
Can we try to get some applicants out at Heritage Ranch?
We have been fortunate to have a good partnership in regard to communication with Heritage Ranch, and I believe Ms. Taylor has worked with them to make sure anything of importance we're also requesting go out via their communication channels, so we'll make a note of that to make sure that happens as well. That's a good point.
A large block of voters, so we need to make sure we get the whole community involved.
So back to your services, Ms. Johnson, so your flat fee, is that just for any district, any size? Is it dependent on the size of possible bond package? How does that work?
It is a fee that's based upon enrollment and other factors, but not anything to do with the potential size of the bond. No, sir.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, consider an act on the Bond Planning Committee Charter. Mr. Percival.
So now that we've been front-loaded really well by Dr. Johnson and kind of what that process might look like, we need to get into what the charter would look like if you guys did decide to move forward with a bond planning committee as a district. And so I want to go through, bear with me, I've got some content I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of. But the purpose of the committee is, obviously, this committee would be, like we mentioned before, an advisory stakeholder committee formed by the board and district leadership. And the purpose of that committee is to help develop a clear vision for the district, the physical learning environments, the capital assets, including priorities, timeline, and financial implications. Much of the work that the current capital planning committee has started. The bond planning committee would study district capital needs and recommend priorities for a possible future bond election. And that would include items such as facilities, fleet, technology, furniture, fixtures, equipment, and other items. The bond planning committee would provide input to the district in support of district strategic goals and those associated short and long-term capital needs. And the committee would strategically balance the district's identified capital needs and long-term financial decision-making in order to achieve Lovejoy's mission of commitment to the Lovejoy experience. And so the charge for the committee would be for reviewing data in regards to the district's current and long-term capital needs, developing an understanding of public school education delivery models, and what needs to be done to best support instruction here in the district, understanding the district's current capital needs and funding methods available to develop recommendations that are fiscally sound, identifying opportunities for prioritization in the capital planning process. Again, that would be in alignment with what the current capital planning committee is doing, considering the educational needs of all students and aligning recommendations with the district's mission, vision, and goals, and representing the entire school district community's values, priorities, and perceptions. And so there are a handful of parameters there. We really want to make sure that we're aligned with, again, those mission, core values, graduate profile, and district priorities, and that the bond planning committee would build support and investment within the initiative with staff, students, and the community by maintaining transparency throughout. The focus would be on providing student learning and student opportunities in a sustainable manner. And we'll also be cautious not to be short-sighted in long-term impact of those decisions. The Bond Planning Committee serves in an advisory capacity to the board, and in their role on the Bond Planning Committee, members will put district interest above personal and business interest. So for that committee membership, like Superintendent Cordell mentioned earlier, all members of the current Capital Planning Committee are not only accepted, but encouraged to participate in that planning committee if it's approved. And then the application would open tomorrow. And so we're going to open that up tomorrow morning pending approval, and both to community, but we'd also like to extend an application and invitation to staff within the district that would also like to engage, that maybe that chose not to engage in the capital planning committee, so that we've got a well-rounded perspective. And all of that would be collected and stopped on October 14th, so it would run for 2 weeks. And then those would be notified of the decision by the end of day on October the 16th of that application process. And again, I just wanted to give one more shout out to those current Capital Planning Committee members and an encouragement of if this is something that the board decides to move forward with, we really would like to keep your engagement.
Mr. Percival?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Johnson mentioned student involvement.
Yes, sir.
Would they need to apply through that same process, or is that different?
Students are a little bit different. What we are doing is tapping into some existing student leadership structures we have in place. And so we would be inviting our junior and senior high school students who are part of the Superintendent High School Student Connection Council, as well as our student council officers. We'll look at the numbers there because our students are very, very involved. And so if all of them are unable to commit, then we will move from there and look at if there are some other student leaders. Again, we want to have a diverse group of students and student experiences. So we're not quite through with determining that process. We'll look at that, and if we feel like we don't have that broad student representation, we'll cast a little bit of a wider net.
And then the last slide there is just, again, a reminder of what those draft dates would look like if the board decides to move forward with that strategy. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions you guys may have.
If there is a student who is interested, who is not part of some of these leadership groups, are they able to apply?
I think the best route would be for them to go ahead and reach out to me directly and to Mr. Percival directly, and then we can manage that with the current numbers that we have.
Is there a target number that we're looking for? Is there a cap that, or how large of a committee can this logistically be?
So, and again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like if we had 65, 70, I think considering our size, I think that would be a healthy cross-section number to represent, different perspective, both from inside the district, but also within the community. And Dr. Johnson may have a different opinion on that, but I feel like considering our size, that would be a good number.
I'll just say, sorry, Barrett. I mentioned I was part of this process a decade ago, over a decade ago. It was one of the first things I did to be involved in the school district. I would highly encourage anybody that's interested in learning about the bond process and having a voice at the table. I feel like the way this is described, it's going to be probably a better organized process. Not that the process was bad the last time around, but I think there's additional structure that I see from participating in it the last time that looks positive to me. And I thought it was a good experience when I went through it. So I would encourage everybody to get involved. I think it would be a good way to participate in shaping the future of the district.
Yeah, I was going to just give testimony of serving on that same committee, I believe. And the intermediary component with Transcend is something that I'm looking forward to because I felt like previously that the engagement level and the ability to be heard and to give input was not as engaging, for lack of better terms. And so I like having a third party that's not tied to the work or issuance of the bonds or the planning, participating and facilitating and bringing that together, which ultimately gives a higher level of transparency and opportunity to our citizens to be engaged. So I think that's a valuable component to this process. I know we're talking about the committee charter, but I think to your point, it's an opportunity to serve, to understand, to be informed, and to help shape how we move forward. Our facilities are, a major component in the educational experience that yields outcomes, and our ability to invest in those and shape that is fundamental to continued success and innovation. So I think it's a good opportunity. It should be an exciting opportunity. So that was really all I was going to say.
I also was on that long-range plan committee. I think the comment that I wanted to make, it's really to support the statements you're making, but having an independent third party facilitate this process is going to help drive some of those outcomes that we're looking for, and that is a recommendation. Whether it's nothing or everything or whatever's in between, I think having the ability to consolidate those voices, and there's a lot of competing goals that we're going to have to balance. And I think having something like this is, I'm very much looking forward to what that process comes out to be.
And I think to the point of having people on it, the larger the committee, the more likely we are to avoid paths that are really self-centered and more focused on the whole of the community and the experience of all the students versus just segments. I think it's important that the committee be well represented, so.
Well, like in the charter, it says you need to consider the district's needs, not just your own personal needs and goals. However, offering what your experiences are, it's really a lot like what we do on the board. And I like that concept.
So this recommendation is that we adopt the bond planning committee charter that's presented to us, which is in this outline. Any other questions? If not, with the comments we've had, I'd consider a recommendation.
Okay. I move that we adopt the committee charter, the bond planning committee charter as presented.
So moved, Amy Smith.
Second.
Second, Marvin Bobo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 18 is a presentation on, or an update on transportation.
So now that we've entered the 8th week of the school year, we've had some bright spots within transportation, and we've had some challenges. And so I wanted to provide the board and the community with an update, just so that we can talk about current state and we can talk about solutions moving forward. Transportation is one of those items that when things are running well, it's kind of like technology. You really don't notice it, but when it's not working well, it can really create some challenges for our families, which creates challenges for our students, and that's not what we're here to do. So just wanted to give you a quick overview, transportation at a glance here in our school district. We've got about 70 total runs that are done AM and PM to pick up our kiddos and take them back home. We travel about 1,135 miles daily. So that's a little over 200,000 miles annually that our drivers log just for routes. That doesn't include trips. And so for a district our size, that's a pretty healthy number of miles. And we have about 1,500 students that participate in home to school, school to home daily. And of course, some days it's higher than others, but that's our average. And then we have another 239 students that utilize our staff and Alpha Best shuttle, both AM and PM. And so that brings our total ridership daily to 1,736. And then if you look at our demographic down there at the bottom, there are 13 CDL drivers. There are 3 non-CDL drivers, so they're driving our 15-passenger buses that don't require you to have a CDL. And then we've got 4 drivers that are sub or part-time that help fill in when they can. And then we've got 3 driver vacancies. And that number seems really low, but if you look at the total number of spots that we have that we need to utilize as efficiently as we can, that's almost 24% vacancy rate. And so when you say that number out loud, it has a little more impact than 3. So we have a little over 23% for our current vacancy. We also maintain 16 white fleet vehicles. We have 1 mechanic. We have a fleet mechanic. And so he maintains all of that as much in-house as we can. We have 33 buses, and then of course we've got the band semi-trailer that we maintain and transport as a department.
Hey Kyle, real quick, when a coach is a CDL license and he kind of helps out for a day, is he in the 13 CDL drivers, or is that?
These are just drivers. All right, so that 13 CDL drivers, those are drivers by trade, not somebody that's got a CDL that pitches in and helps out. Though we have lots of people around the district that when time allows or schedule allows, and I'm going to get to that in just a second, they're always willing to help. So currently the transportation team, what are some solutions that they're working through? They're continuously evaluating routes, and they're looking for any type of route adjustments where we can run more efficient. And that's always going to be done through safety first. So the lens of safety, that we're going to look at capacity, we're going to look at rider density, and we're going to look at efficiency. Currently, both the director, the coordinator, and the mechanic are on buses daily. Again, they're doing whatever it takes to make sure that we're trying to serve our families and our kiddos. They also recently got trained on utilizing Bright Arrow to help send out more timely notification when we know about a situation where a bus is going to run later than normal, whether it be AM or PM. That way they don't have to call somebody at 6 a.m. and try to wake them up and get them in front of a computer. So that's something that happened here recently. And one thing that we do as a district too that I'm not sure everybody knows about is that we pay for you to come in and train to get your CDL. So somebody that wants to drive but doesn't have a commercial driver's license and doesn't have the required TEA bus certification and all the endorsements, that's okay. We'd be more than happy to have you. We'll pay you, we'll get you trained, and we'll get you serving here in Lovejoy ISD. And so I've got Michelle Leisure's email address there if anybody would like to reach out and join the team. HR has done tremendous efforts as well. They've been in contact with North Texas Job Network. They've completed a compensation study of surrounding districts as it relates to bus drivers to see kind of where we fall in that competitive range. And then also working to get the word out, creating signage and banners that we can use around the district to advertise. And then like I mentioned before, teachers, coaches, and maintenance staff are all pitching in when they can, as long as it doesn't have a direct interference with their day-to-day work that they're charged with here in the district. So that's just kind of it in a nutshell. I just want to make sure I brought that update forward. I know you've seen some correspondence go out back and forth. This was some growing pains that we've had for the first few weeks of school, but I wanted to bring everybody up to date. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, Kyle, I have a question. In addition to the daily ridership total, is there still a wait list for kids wanting bus service? And if we had additional drivers, would that be something that we could then work on?
So that's a great.
What's the wait list looking
Great
like?
question. So we were at 30, and we've kind of whittled that number down to I'd call it less than 10. Now, a lot of that is we've got a high number of kids that are in before and after school activities. And so as we see them transition seasons, as we get closer to the winter, you're going to see those numbers that are going to usually trend up because they don't have that before and or after school activity that they're in anymore.
When we were working through some of those growing pains, I know we had certain situations where instead of running just 2 routes in the morning or afternoon, they might have to triple up on occasion, and that affected some timing. Has that more or less resolved itself at this point? Or are we still dealing with some of the hiccups there?
So on those days where everybody comes to work and we don't have any illness, we have, on the perfect day, that's not happening. But when we have those unforeseen things that happen with us where we've got somebody that's ill or they're late to work, or maybe they're out on leave due to medical reasons, then it throws a little bit of a wrench in the plan. And those are those days that we see those long times. We had one route that ran later than normal last week, but it was due to a major accident that happened out in the district, and we were just kind of stuck for a little bit. But on the perfect day, we can make the times work pretty well. It's not ideal. In some of it's kind of it's filling in the gaps with anybody that's willing and able to come out and help us out. Instead of by design, it's kind of like you're chasing.
Yep. And then I know there have been some safety concerns that different neighborhoods or members of the community had concerns of things they see that don't look safe, what is your recommendation on how they should alert transportation about any concerns like that?
So what my recommendation would be is if you ever see something that you feel is unsafe and it involves any of our transportation, white fleet, yellow fleet, you need to reach directly out to Michelle Leisure via email, and please copy me on that too, since Michelle's been on a bus routinely each day. If I'm copied on those email correspondence, then I can help follow up and make sure that we don't have something that falls through the gaps.
So she's on a bus driving every day?
She's been monitoring here lately, and then also transporting students in a Suburban. We've got a couple students that need to be transported that way, and so she's been feeling that need.
All right, thank you for that presentation, Mr. Percival.
Okay, thank you.
Item 19 is to consider an act on a bus driver pay increase. Ms. Koenig.
Thank you, Kyle. He has set this for me. Just wanted to give you some information. We have been working with transportation, trying to support them and our students. And so currently, our starting salary for a bus driver that does not have a CDL, so this is that 15-passenger bus or a Suburban, they're at $18 an hour. Our current starting salary for a bus driver with a CDL is $20 an hour. And so for every year of experience, they would receive 25 cents more for every year of experience. It's currently what we pay. We did survey neighboring districts, 13 neighboring districts, and we found on average, the hourly wage was $22.49. And out of those 13, we had 2 that besides us, that started at $20. All the others were $21.10 all the way up to over $26 an hour there. So just wanted to give you some background that we were looking into just what other districts in our area were doing and who we were competing with too. So we, as we spoke and worked with transportation, we also thought, you know, what else can we do? So we're making magnetic signs for vehicles. We're putting flyers out. We've contacted surrounding organizations, Texas Workforce, churches, reception desk, LCDC. We did a grandparent event, so they were all up here trying to see if they'd be interested in driving buses for us. We've had quite a bit of success actually on the marquee. We've had, I think, 8 people have stopped for child nutrition, custodial, and bus drivers. So as they come in, Christy recruits them there. And then, of course, at homecoming, we put a bus in front of the high school, hoping everyone would see it and decide to, if they were interested, to get their CDL. We are recommending an increase of hourly pay by $2.75 for all bus drivers. So that would make our starting salary at $22.75 and then add an additional $2.75 to our current bus drivers' salary hourly. There's also an application there if you want to use the barcode, so you can apply there too if you're watching this and you're interested.
So did I hear you right so whatever current bus drivers are making, this addition would just be a bump, because if they had the 25% or 25%,
Right.
if they've been there for a number of years, they're still going to get a benefit from
Of
this?
$2.75, correct. So if they're at $23 an hour, if they have 4 years of experience, they would get an additional $2.75. We believe that's fair as we surveyed other districts in our area. And it's a very competitive job, and honestly, people around us recruit, I mean, for 25 cents, 50 cents around us. Questions for me?
I feel like we lost a couple that we had right before the beginning of school being recruited away that way.
We
right?
did. I think we lost 4, didn't we? Yeah, we did. They went to a district that had a higher hourly wage. We did.
And these were neighboring districts?
These were neighboring districts, yes.
So it wasn't much of a farther drive for them to go to these other
No.
districts to participate in their program?
No, I mean, it's just, if you want to be a bus driver, it's pretty competitive. So, yeah. And as I said, we have some great bus drivers. We want to give them what they deserve and retain the ones that we have. And of course, we know that we need to recruit a few more. We need, a mechanic, working on buses, and we need our transportation director helping with some of those other duties that she has also.
Yeah, so as these three individuals are driving routes, they're actually not doing their job, or they're
Correct.
staying extra hours to get their job done.
Yeah,
And so it's not really, it's not
it's not what's
a
best
great
for.
work environment for them.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, this has been a statewide problem, an area-wide problem for years now. I mean,
Mhm.
almost since, yeah, I want to say even before the pandemic, but certainly after. I mean, if you've been to a sporting event at another neighboring school district, you've seen the bus with
And
the
the sign
tarp
on the
outside,
side,
just
yeah.
like we have. So, and I remember seeing that,
Mhm.
you know, like Wiley 3 years ago. So, I mean, it's just a recurring problem, and unfortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of larger school districts that probably have driver vacancies exponentially larger than ours. So I think this is a common sense approach to try to, you know, fill our drivers to capacity, given the competitive market that's out there.
Right.
I think also, I'm not sure if you mentioned, the amount we are going to provide an
Yeah.
increase will be covered by the absence of positions, right?
Correct.
So, okay. And I don't know if I said that correctly.
and-
You could probably say it
Right,
better.
right. And if you look for the budget, you know, for the rest of the year, it's about $40,000. And so as we worked with Thomas, it wasn't a huge hit because we only need really 3 more bus drivers.
And hopefully we can get the other 10 people on the waiting list to be able to.
Yeah,
actually
which would
send our
help with,
kids.
for transportation fees, correct.
There are no other questions? I'd consider a motion.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to change the salary levels for our bus drivers.
So move, Marvin Bobo. Second, Amy Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 20 is an update on our Fujitsu project. Mr. Percival.
Hello again. So I wanted to give you guys a quick update on a project that kicked off back in April. On April the 22nd, the board approved an agreement between Lovejoy ISD and Fujitsu. This project that was approved is actually a one-of-a-kind project for any public school district in the United States. And Fujitsu has partnered with us to utilize their knowledge and database of AI technology to integrate with current camera systems here in the school district to identify areas that we would want to be alerted to so that we are being proactive with our security measures. And so what that looks like currently in its developmental phase is there are predetermined behaviors that we look for or that the intelligence looks for. So it might look like someone coming up and trying to gain forced entry into one of our campuses. And so that artificial intelligence will identify those movements, and once it's fully developed, it will identify those movements and it will send automatic alerts to people within the district, as well as first responders if needed. And so it would just give us an added level of security. And it really is an innovative piece of technology that we're excited about. We're excited about some of the potential that it brings here to Lovejoy. And so, like I said, we're currently in the developmental phase. And so we're working through that, and we'll bring back periodic updates just to kind of bring everybody along. But this graphic is kind of a continuum. And so if you think about safety and security, and you look at the continuum on the far left-hand side, and you see manual safety, actually it's manual security, and then you kind of move over and you look at basic motion detection, and then you look at human detection. All of these are extremely important, and they're part of our layered approach here in Lovejoy. But if you look over to that intelligent, where it talks about complex AI solutions, that's really where we want to continue to move towards, so that we're utilizing every tool and every point that we can, not just during the day, but also after hours, to make sure that we're keeping our kiddos and our staff safe, but also our property whenever it's not occupied. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but just wanted to provide a quick update in that we are working through that partnership with Fujitsu and that we're currently in that developmental phase.
And in this partnership, they're bearing all the costs, correct?
That is correct. It is a zero-cost partnership to the school district. Fujitsu has actually found quite a bit of money to help fund the project through grants. And so it's been a very beneficial thing, at least up to this point. And I think it's going to really bear some really innovative security items for us in the future.
Can you speak to any concerns people might have about privacy concerns when you're dealing with cameras and anything dealing with technology?
Sure. So one of the high points when it comes to the security of our students and our staff is that the development of this product is specifically going to look at movement. It's not looking to identify, there's no facial recognition. There will be no recognition or profiling based on size, shape, gender, color. It's all looking specifically at movement and actions. And so all of the data is already currently being stored here on the premise. So it's the same camera system that we have. It's the same servers that we have. They're going to introduce a small device that's got that artificial intelligence into it, and it will overlay over our camera system. So it really doesn't change anything by what's being identified by people or what's being stored when you're thinking about the security of our kiddos.
So
in
we're not
relation to the
sending
cameras.
data out anywhere, it's all on premise?
It's all on premise, yes, sir.
And then, so what, I know we said this is in development, and we think it might be something that we could actively use sometime in the future. We don't know exactly what that timeline looks like, but what do you see as the primary benefit once it's actually, assuming it goes live at some point?
So if the product is built out and developed on track like it is now, I really feel like the end result for what I would just say phase one would be is for our district to have the ability to receive real-time notification if any of the cameras that are being utilized pick up any of the predetermined movements. So that might look like somebody trying to break in. It might look like somebody looking through a window. It could look like somebody grabbing for a weapon. So right now we have 6 predetermined movements that we're kind of working through the test phase and the developmental phase with, but those are all customizable, and so are the times where the deployment would happen. So like for instance, if you want to look specifically at after hours on exterior doors for intruders, then you can go ahead and say between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., I want these cameras within the district to be actively looking for X, Y, and Z actions. And if they detect X, Y, and Z actions, they'll send an automatic notification both to a computer and a cell phone so that you can get those alerts and you can go into the camera system and verify it was a false alert or, hey, we've got a problem over at X door and we need to have first responders show up.
Kyle, I think it's a great job by your team and Casey for finding this opportunity for being the first in the United States or the nation to go about this project.
Thank you. It's really exciting for the district. I can't say enough about it. I'm not going to sit up here and continue, but it really is going to, I think, give us some opportunity to really continue to push forward and utilize everything that we can in the scheme of safety and security for our kiddos and our staff.
Yeah, I think one thing you shared previously was Fujitsu wanted to partner with us because of the reputation of our safety, security, and Marshall program, which speaks highly to Casey and his team. So
Yes.
Them doing this at no cost to us, I think is a testament to the work y'all are doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update, Mr. Percival. Item 21-9 is a presentation, House Bill 3, Early Childhood Literacy, Early Childhood Math, College, Career, and Military Readiness, Proficiency Goals, and Progress Measures. Dr. Lori Tinsley.
Thank you. House Bill 3 requires that school boards adopt annually plans for early childhood literacy and math goals, as well as college, career, and military readiness. And the plans are required to meet the criteria set forth by the Texas Education Code. So what we're going to do tonight is that we're going to present to you our recommendations. This is a presentation. This is not to take action tonight. We'll be bringing it back to the November meeting. So I'm going to ask Erin Perkins and Mary Mullins to come forward. So I'm going to just give you a reminder about, just as I mentioned, about what the statute requires school boards adopt, the detailed plans with quantifiable goals in the 3 areas that I already noted: early childhood literacy proficiency, early childhood math proficiency, college and career military readiness. And the goals are set forth in early childhood literacy and math. It's up through 3rd grade, so you'll see in just a minute the goals that we set for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade in reading and math. We have to include progress measures for each of those areas. And then, again, this aligns with the House Bill 3 mandate that we use integrated assessments for pre-K through 3rd grade to diagnose reading, development, and comprehension. College and career readiness, college, career, and military readiness, again, is driven by our academic instruments, which are ACT, SAT, TSI, AP, and dual credit. We look at career ready and military ready. The goals have to include a baseline over a 5-year period so that we look at a target, what we're shooting for over each year. And then we bring this back to you and provide updates on our progress measures for each of the goals. So for early literacy, goal 1 is that we are proposing that the percent of 3rd grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR reading will increase from 82% to 91% by June 2028. And as you see, that's through a 5-year period. Goal 2 for early math, the percent of 3rd grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR math will increase from 86% to 93% by June 2028. And then for CCMR goal 3, the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR will increase from 93% to 98% by August 2028. So Ms. Perkins is going to go into more detail on our goals for early childhood literacy.
Hi, good evening. So we're going to start just with our kind of our overarching 3rd grade literacy goal. Like Dr. Tinsley said, we are working to improve from 82% to 91% on meets or higher on 3rd grade STAR. And so we used the 2023 STAR data as our baseline. That was the year that we had the change in the testing to STAR 2.0. So we used 2023 as the baseline, and then have set a target for 5 years out through 2028. And then at the bottom there, we have set targets for each of our student groups. All right, and so in the literacy, we have also set progress measures in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. So for those grade levels in literacy, we're going to be using MClass to assess phonics and phonemic awareness, and then we'll use the DRA-3 to assess comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary. And then, of course, 3rd grade will be using STAR. All right, so this is just to show you since 2023, our progress on that 3rd grade goal. So our target for 2024 was 85%, meeting meets or higher on 3rd grade STAR, and we did meet that target in 2024. At the bottom, you can see the target and the actual outcome for the student groups who have 10 or more students in that group, with the exception of the emergent bilinguals. All right, and then our progress measures for literacy, we are going to be using, as I said earlier, MClass and DRA. So we've set a target for our kindergartners that they will meet at benchmark or above on MClass, and we will increase from 91% to 96% by June of 2029. So for these progress measures, we're using our 2024 data as our baseline, and then have set targets for 5 years out from this year. and you can see the targets there. Kindergarten, for DRA, we are looking to increase from 82% to 91% reading on grade level by June of 2029, and we've set our targets there for each year. And then first grade, we are, for M-Class, we'll be working to help students meet at benchmark or above and increase that from 85% to 90% by June of 2029. For first grade on DRA, we'll be working with students to meet move from 80% to 90% that are reading at grade level or above. And then our last literacy progress measure is for second graders. The percent of second grade students that are at benchmark or above on M-Class will increase from 87% to 92% by June of 2029. And then on DRA, we will increase from 85% to 90% reading at or above grade level by June of 2029. All right, and then some of the strategies that we will be using to help reach those goals, we'll be utilizing the LISD curriculum resource system as well as our balanced assessment center system that we've presented to you at times in the past. And we'll be working to deliver targeted small groups through guided reading, decodable text, and strategy groups. We'll also be working to align our instruction to our LISD literacy framework and really focusing on that explicit and systematic instruction, writing in all content areas, and the implementation of the workshop model. We'll also be using our LISD instructional minutes framework so that we prioritize phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary throughout our literacy block. And then for intervention and extensions, again, using our balanced assessment system to help us monitor that student progress and using some data analysis protocols with teachers and supporting them with their response to their data through our unit planning guides. And then for professional development, we'll continue to ensure that teachers are trained in the Texas Reading Academy, as well as ongoing support through our campus support, such as our MTSS leads and our coordinators.
Any questions about the literacy before we move to math?
How do you determine using the M-Class and the DRA? Is that just the standard for everybody, or do we have choices there?
We have choices. You want to talk about what we have from the state?
Yeah, so from the state, they give us a couple of different choices. M-Class is one of those, and we have been using that over since I've been here, and I think for several years prior to that, and so we'll continue to use that for consistency.
So that's where we have the best baseline data?
Yes, sir, for our phonics and phonemic awareness, yes.
I have a quick question. For the, you have ongoing support from MTSS. Do you see that the PLCs are beneficial in implementation of a lot of these strategies as well?
Absolutely.
And how? Like, how are you using PLCs for?
Yeah, I think that is one of the most critical pieces of the work that we do. That is where teachers are collaborating. MTSS leads are often a part of those PLCs, so we can embed some embedded professional development through those conversations. That's where they're really digging into the standards that they're teaching, analyzing their data together, and working as a team to figure out how to respond to that data.
Okay, let's talk about early childhood math goals.
Okay, there's not quite as many of these. So for math, we are going to be working with, our goal is for third grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR Math. We want to increase that from 86% to 93% by June of 2028. And so again, we use 2023 as our baseline and then have set targets for 5 years out. So in math, we're going to be using our MAP growth assessment to measure our kindergarten, first, and second grades progress measures, and then again, STAR for third grade. All right, so this is just an update of where we are this year on third grade STAR. In 2023, 86% were meeting at meets or above, and so in 2024, we had set the target for 88%, and again, we had 86% that were at the meets or above. So for our progress measures for kindergarten, our goal is that for the students that score high, average, and above on MAP growth, that we will increase that from 85% to 95% by June of 2029. For first grade, students that score high, average, and above on MAP growth will increase from 77% to 87% by June of 2029. And then second grade, will do a STAR projected proficiency from the results on the MAP growth assessment. And so we are looking to increase the number of students that are projected to meet meets or above on STAR when they get to third grade from 66% to 85%. And second grade is the first year that students are assessed without oral administration. And so that is, we have typically, with last year being our first assessment, we did see a dip in second grade, with that being the first year that they're doing it without the oral. And then some strategies for math. Very similar, I would say, to literacy. Again, our curriculum resource system and our balanced assessment system. We'll be working to really align our instruction in math to our framework, focusing on a balance of conceptual understanding, procedural skills, and the fluency practice. Also looking at our math framework and prioritizing our time around number sense routines, whole group mini lessons, independent practice, and differentiated small group instruction. And then again, ensuring that we're analyzing our data to provide interventions and extensions where needed. Okay.
This may be a loaded question, but do you think these goals are reasonable, increasing by 10% over 5 years? And 95% is awesome, but do you think that's a reasonable goal?
I do think it's reasonable. I think especially with the practices that we're putting in place, like you mentioned, the PLCs, the interventions that we have, and the strategies that we've listed here, I think it's very doable.
Awesome.
Yep.
I will add, Mr. Wheelis, that's a good question. I think with what we know now, there certainly can be changes to the assessment system. We did an analysis with our campus administrators and district administrators, even comparing the last 2 years and some of the differences in the English language arts assessment in terms of the writing prompt, and there was a discernible difference in terms of the difficulty level, but prioritizing academic achievement, and always want to make sure that we're pushing that level, because we want to make sure our students are high performing.
And I think I want to lift up too, as Aaron mentioned, the changes in the test in 2023. There are, what we have wanted, been working with our teachers, is that we really should be writing across all content areas, and keeping in mind that kids are being tested on the content as well as processing skills too. So that is a shift in the way that our students are being assessed.
So this was a House Bill 3 requirement. Is this the first year we've gotten goals in this format, or we have gotten that previously?
They've been previous in
So-
this format, and part of our district improvement plan.
And that's what I was, and it's aligned with those district improvement plans as well. And so I saw a couple of places where it tracked what our previous goal had been, but I guess that'd be something I'm curious about as well. If we've published these previously, showing where we stand compared to previous goals, or if they, because now it just looks like it's moving forward, and some of these go through 28, some of them go through 29. Maybe get better understanding there.
Yeah, my question would be, is the previous data, would it be like comparing apples to oranges due to the changes in the
I
test
think that's
structure?
exactly, and you'll see on the K2, we did start with 2024, because even the way that we were analyzing there were some inconsistencies with how students were being assessed. So we wanted to have relevant data, but yes, we are advised to go from every 5 years. So you could compare 23, but anything before 23, that's going to be a different test that we would be comparing it to, comparing apples to oranges.
I understand. I guess my question, or my request moving forward, when we get this same presentation next year, would be to see not just 25 moving forward, but also seeing what our goal had been previously and where we are in relation to where we wanted to be on track. Does that make sense?
Yes, and what we do at the end of the, if you remember, at the end of the year, we do bring back, because these are in our district improvement plan, you'll see those in just a few minutes, we do bring back that data for you, so you'll be able to see that hopefully when we get receive our STAR results back. Okay, we're going to move to CCMR.
Hello. So I'm going to address the college, career, and military readiness goals. The overarching goal is the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR will increase from 93% to 98% by 2028. You will see we did start at a baseline of 2023 because the A through F accountability system was refreshed in 2023. When we're talking accountability and we're talking CCMR, the biggest change was the scaling of what it takes to get an A by the state. So previous to 2023, an A required school districts to average 60% of their students at CCMR readiness, at the readiness level. They raised it to 88% for an A. So that was the biggest change. And as you can see, our students really perform above an 88, so it didn't truly affect us. But many other school districts were affected by this change largely. So we start with a baseline of 2023. The thing is with CCMR data, it's always lagging 1 year. So you'll see an asterisk below that that says it's based on the graduates from the year of 2022. So please keep that in mind. It's always a year behind because the state does collect data on these students throughout the summer and even for military readiness through December of the following year that they graduate, and that's why it's lagging, okay? So in 23, we had an indicator of 93%, and then in 24, 92%. And again, that's 24 accountability, but it's 23 graduates. We do plan out with goals in 2028 to reach at 98%. And that might seem on the surface that that's a stretch, but I do want to remind you that in 2020, we had a 98% CCMR indicator percentage. In 21, it was 97. So the goal of 98 in 5 years is not non-attainable.
Any reason why we went down?
To the over time, I will address that just in a little bit, but when I talk more about the different progress measures as we go through the different ways we are going to measure project.
Hey, Mary, how does the state track graduates beyond graduation? How do they find out even a year later what's going on with them?
Great question. What we do receive is we receive scores for SAT. Students have the opportunity to turn in scores a month after through the end of June for SAT, through July ACT, and then if they complete any dual credit courses over the summer, those also count. And then military, they must enroll in the military, and they have up through December to do that. And that's something that the state decided was the cutoff.
But we're gathering that data for the state.
Yes.
So we're responsible for the military side or just the ACT, SAT?
The data for SAT, ACT, and TSIA actually comes from the College Board. And what we call PEAMS reported data would be things like the dual credit, IBCs, and things of those nature. Okay, so the first project process measure is graduates who meet the Texas Success Initiative or the TSI criteria in both reading and math will increase from 80% to 90% by 2028. And so But just a reminder that when students take the SAT, ACT, TSI, they must meet the criteria in reading and math to receive a CCMR indicator. So just in one area will not give them the indicator. So here we have a baseline of a goal of 80%, and we did score at 79%, and again, that's 22 graduates. And for 2024, our goal is 82, and it did drop a bit to 77%, and that is our 23 graduates. Some of the planning and instructional delivery that we have put in place to help increase and grow in this performance would be to utilize our resource system that we have in place to guarantee, to provide a guaranteed and viable curriculum, text alignment, and then also we will be using what the College Board puts out, or what they call text alignments to the ACT alignments and objectives. We have embedded college and career readiness standards in the 7th through 8th English, language arts, and math courses. We will be providing explicit and systematic instruction aligning to performance on college and career readiness exams through warm-ups, exit tickets, and providing a deeper review of what is actually on the exams. We will be providing intervention and extensions for the students, and also monitoring progress. We will continue to use Leopard Time to provide that intervention, and then we will be using the supports in the unit planning guides. As far as professional development is concerned, we will be collaborating in data meetings, which we have already started last week, and we're looking at multiple data sources so we get a full picture of what we have currently and what we are working towards. Typically, in this district, we have a very high-performing district, and that's mostly what we talk about, performance a lot, and not so much about CCMR, so we will be working to bring more of an awareness of the importance of the CCMR indicator also.
And that is something that I think with the change going from the 66% to the 88% is that districts have gotten much more conscientious about tracking, so that so what we've been doing, as Mary alluded to, is that more of a systematic approach to tracking, so that we're meeting with the counselors, already meeting with the kids if they have not met their indicator yet, so that we have a plan in place so that they are assured that they're meeting their indicator.
So some of this could literally just be proper record keeping.
Exactly.
And so we'll get some growth there, because, it says college, career, military readiness, and how many of our kids in 2023 went to college? Do you have that number?
Ooh,
I know it's off the top of your head. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
That actually enrolled and did attend. No, I do not have that number. No, I wouldn't.
Well, would it be in the high 90s?
For sure, the high 80s, I would say.
Okay,
I can't say.
high 80s.
Yes.
And so when I see that, and then I see a number that's 66, I see just some record-keeping challenges.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right,
So
I'm seeing that
there's
right.
definitely some tracking systems that districts are doing. We've been meeting with the high school counseling team, administration team, so that the students that are in their alpha, they are tracking those and meeting with those kids to ensure they have a plan to get to receive their indicator. Mm-hmm.
Progress measure number 2 is graduates who meet criteria on the AP exam in any subject will increase from 60% to 70% by 2028. The baseline for this is a 60%, and we did score at 60%. Again, this is 22 data. 24, the goal was 62. It did drop to 53%, and this is 23 data. And some of the reasons for this drop is this was the year where the high school had all 5 new administrators on the campus. Additionally, new AP teachers We hired a lot of new AP teachers across the board that never gave the exam before, were not familiar with the objectives as an experienced teacher might be, and especially in the area of social studies. Social studies is the content area where we do give the highest number of AP exams, and that's where we had the greatest turnover. I also want to remind you that this graduating class of 2023 were freshmen during the COVID year, so they really stopped attending school in March. And then their sophomore year was virtual. Some came in, some didn't. So we had a lot of change. And again, this is a refresh year. So there were just a lot of things going on during 2023. Some strategies to promote growth in AP performance include utilizing instructional resources provided by the College Board. Again, with new teachers, some of them don't even realize that the College Board does provide a wealth of resources to use. So we're going to ensure that they're using those. We are going to ensure alignment of middle school and high school curricula to build foundations and prepare the students. Continue to provide a rigorous instruction in the advanced, formerly called pre-AP, and AP courses aligned to AP objectives, and increase opportunities for students to complete problem-based projects. And this is something that the College Board does indicate that students that are more involved in creating problem-based projects, the better they do on the exams. For intervention, we will be monitoring the students' progress, and we will be using a systematic, targeted instructional structure to meet their needs through Leopard Time. For professional development, we will provide opportunities for teachers to attend the College Board training and mentoring, and workshops for new AP teachers, and also for the advanced teachers for the alignment, and then conduct district-wide vertical team meetings and plannings for advanced and AP teachers. And the last measure is graduates who earn an industry-based certification will increase from 35% to 48% by 2028. The baseline goal is 35%. We actually did perform at 42% based on 22 data, and in Accountability 2024, our goal was 40. We actually had 46% of our students achieve an indicator through an IBC certification. And we continue to keep the goal or the targets at increasing at 2%. And the reason for that is something that the state has really changed. When you look at what their requirements have changed, a lot came under the industry-based certifications. First of all, we have quite a few tests that are being, or exams that are being sunset. And the last year for students to earn an indicator on those sunsetting exams is this year. The refresh significantly increased the criteria of students and how they can receive an indicator in this area. Because of the decrease to 7 periods a day, we have a lot less students taking the CTE courses. We will continue to develop pathways, though, based on student interest and adding IBCs. And we will also be continue to use the curriculum resource system to ensure implementation of a guaranteed and viable curriculum. This year, a big thing that we did is Lovejoy is partnering with Region 10 to create an instructional framework for CTE. So we will be intentionally creating curriculum design using backwards design focused on the CTE courses and identifying essential future readiness skills to teach and student goal setting and program alignment. We will another thing that is happening with the state is instead of refreshing IBCs and programs of studies every 2 or 4 years, they will be only changing them every 5 years. And then we will continue to have our middle school teachers meet with our high school teachers to ensure vertical alignment. Currently, we do offer 7 high school courses at the middle school. 5 of those courses are CTE courses.
So, Mary, you mentioned the change to the 7-period day and then limited number of or the decrease. Do we expect this number from 40 to 40, a goal of 40 with performance of 46 is obviously good. Do we expect that 46% to retreat, or do we think we'll trend upward?
Unfortunately, it will go down just because of the sunsetting.
Just because of the circumstances?
Yeah, and other circumstances too.
So in CCMR, do we have an overall understanding of how we compare in the public education space?
Yes. We can find that data out.
We actually, in comparable districts, we're still performing very high to comparable districts. We do feel like that 92, though, if we institute a better tracking system and response system, then that will definitely go up. But if you look at comparable districts, we're still the highest performing.
The highest performing?
We are, currently the state is at 76.3%. Mary, will you go back to the actual CCMR goal? And then just pointing out that CCMR goal is supported by different criteria, ACT, SAT, TSI, AP, dual credit, and then the industry-based certifications. Am I missing any, Mary?
There's actually 10 different ways that students can earn an indicator for CCMR.
So it's a lengthy list. We've chosen 3, but the state 76.3, Region 10 79.4, Lovejoy 92.3, and then benchmarking against other high-performing districts throughout the state. The next one that we've identified is 91.9, 91%, 87.4, 84.5, and so that would be the typical list of what.
So considering all
we see.
these factors, we still are performing ahead of anyone we found?
That's what the data indicates, yes, correct.
Okay.
Many of our students receive up to 4 different indicators for CCMR. They achieve the AP, they'll have due credit, they might have an IBC exam, they met both indicators for reading and math. We have students that earn more than 1 indicator typically.
Mr. Bobo brought up a good point about the focal point of our students and the collegiate aspirations and the percentage of those kids that go there, and then the tracking of the data. So I could see how we actually might be performing better than we realize based on the data collection aspects of it. Am I reading that properly?
We could be. It is a very high percentage of achievement, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing great. I'm just saying we might actually be doing better than what we think. I appreciate the format. You asked about House Bill 3. I've seen it for many years. This is an improved format from my perspective and my ability to capture the information and understand it. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to
I agree.
see it again.
I especially like in some of the CCMR sections, you did have what the goal was and where we are compared to the goal. And I guess my only ask would be the more we can see those types of data points, the better. And then also continuing to keep these previously years, as long as we are apples to apples, and if we're not comparing the same thing, I understand. But then also, if they're ever, I guess I don't have a clear, understanding or confidence of knowing when these goals might change from year to year too. And if they do, that I'm not saying they shouldn't necessarily, but if they do, I'd like to understand why and how they change. And just putting what the goal is doesn't tell me, okay, well, has the 2027 goal always been 88% for that, or has that been moved over the years? And I'd like to understand if that's changing too.
And we keep in mind, we really did look at some assessments because we were questioning some validity of some of the assessments. For example, the math, we really did not have an assessment in K2 for math. So with adopting math growth and keeping in mind that last year was the first year of implementation with that. And so, and again, that, as Aaron mentioned, second grade is the first year that they we don't read the test to them, they have to read it independently. So, and the same thing with the DRA. We did some intensive training with our teachers on the administration of that, just to get some good baselines with it. So what you'll see and I'll be sharing this in just a few minutes, with the district improvement plan, you will see these goals included in the plan, and then our principals will also be incorporating these performance objectives in their plans as well. And at that time, they will also be lifting up some of the specific strategies that they will be doing to respond to this as well.
Thank you for that presentation. So we're going to pause 5 minutes for a quick restroom break. All right, we're going to reconvene. Thank you for the break there. Item 22 tonight's presentation on curriculum and instruction and early literacy. Dr. Tinsley.
Okay, we are going to present tonight some more information on early literacy, but really go a little bit more into the Texas Reading Academies and also the science of reading. We hit on some of that with you during the board workshop this month. So I'm going to have a couple of presenters with me. One of them is Carrie Sharp. She's our pre-K through 6th grade reading, language, arts, social studies coordinator. She's going to assist, and so Mrs. Perkins will also be involved. So I just want to go back and revisit, and I mentioned this, that House Bill 3 did lay out that the state instituted Texas Reading Academies. And this just really talks about the purpose of the Reading Academies. It was, of course, to meet the House Bill. The vision was to ensure that all of our teachers were highly trained in the science of teaching reading, that provided evidence-based literacy instruction, promoted critical thinking, listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills, and to equip educators with the knowledge and skills needed to implement evidence-based instruction. Also understanding how to assess student progress that we were just talking about, and how to use the data to inform instruction so that all Texas students develop a strong foundation in reading and writing. So the science of teaching reading, there are 5 big areas. One, phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and play with individual sounds and spoken words. Phonics, which is reading instruction. You're understanding how letters and groups of letters connect to form letter-sound relationships and spelling patterns. Fluency is how we read phrases, words, sentences with speed and expression. Vocabulary is knowing what the words mean and how to say them and use them correctly. And then comprehension is understanding what you are reading. So what is the science of reading? It is a collection of research that's been conducted over multiple years in fields of study, and looking at the theories on how children learn to read. It teaches the big 5 ideas: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And keeping in mind that research is ever evolving, so we don't stop there. So it is a continuous process. What it's not a program or an intervention or something that you can purchase. It's considered an approach to teaching reading that's based on research and science. It's not a phonics-only based program that drills phonics skills. And it doesn't mean that we've arrived, that it's not complete. As I mentioned, research is ongoing and evolving. So I'm going to hand it over to Carrie, and she's going to go more in depth on the 5 areas of science of reading.
Excellent. So some of the learning that our teachers do when they are in the Texas Reading Academy centers on the simple view of reading. And when you look at that, it's really not simple at all, is it? It's quite complex. So when you think about how all of those big ideas fit together, there's decoding. And that decoding, coupled with the language comprehension, is going to lead to that true reading comprehension. So you can see under decoding all the things that students are being asked to do with phonological awareness, sound letter knowledge, sight recognition, and fluency. And then all of the things under language comprehension, their background knowledge, pairing that with vocabulary, sentence structure, verbal reasoning, literacy knowledge, and fluency is going to lead to that true reading comprehension. So as Dr. Tinsley mentioned, the last time I had the opportunity to share with you guys, we touched on each of these 5 big ideas, and I'm going to give you a little bit more context and a little bit more learning about each one of those. So let's first think about phonemic awareness and what that is. Phonemic awareness is the ability to really recognize and manipulate the spoken parts of sentences and words. It's an awareness of the words that we speak, and they can be taken apart. It's really about what we're hearing. So think about the word phone, phonemic awareness. You see that word phone in there. So a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound that distinguishes one word from the other. So we have some examples up here. When you think about the word dog, you see those 3 letters. But what I want you to understand is the word dog is made up of 3 phonemes, 3 sounds that you hear: d, a, g, dog, okay? But when, as letters start working together, you can see the word ship. Ship has 4 letters, but ship has 3 sounds. Sh, it, p. So this is the type of work that a student would be doing during those phonemic awareness opportunities. And this is really central in our beginning early reading with pre-K, kinder, and first grade. So let's look at phonics next. What is phonics? Phonics is the letter-sound relationships that are taught in a very organized and logical sequence. The instruction is always explicit, and this is more than just decoding. Phonics is also the encoding and the word study. So with decoding, we're taking the written words and we're turning that into spoken words. And that's what you typically think of when a student is reading. They're looking at the print and they're putting all of those letters and sounds together to read that word. With encoding, think more coupled with spelling. They are listening and they're turning the spoken words into the written words. And then with word study, you're putting everything together and you're learning how to recognize those words and analyzing them while you're reading. So early on in kinder, we start with things like short vowels, consonant vowel, consonant words, simple. And then as we progress in phonics through the grade levels, the work gets more sophisticated, where you are doing blends, where you are working with trigraphs and more sophisticated word patterns. So next, let's think about fluency. This is the ability to read words and phrases and sentences with expression and speed. So when we are working on fluency with our students, we are really working on reading those words in longer phrases. We want them to read with expression, which means not only are they paying attention to the words that they're reading, they're also paying attention to punctuation and other things on the page. We want them to be able to recognize those high-frequency words with automaticity, but we also want them to have word-solving skills, so when they do come to a word that they're not sure about, they can apply those decoding skills that we talked about. Vocabulary, knowing what words mean and how to say and use them correctly. Vocabulary is defined as the words that a reader understands, recognizes, and then can apply in their reading and writing. And there are 4 types of vocabulary that a student might be exposed to within their instructional time. The reading vocabulary, obviously that's the words that we read. Listening vocabulary, the words that we hear in our spoken language. The speaking vocabulary, the words that we use when we speak. And the writing vocabulary, the words that we use when we write. So think about not just the reading time, but think about science and social studies. That is also other places that they are gaining these vocabulary words. Vocabulary allows us to connect the stories, the ideas, and the content together, resulting in that reading comprehension that we want. And vocabulary can be taught directly and indirectly. So think about, if I'm teaching a science word, I'm going to be teaching that directly. An indirect experience might be as I'm doing a read aloud, and we use the clues in the sentence structure to help us determine the meaning. Comprehension is the last of our 5 big ideas. Comprehension is the ability to understand and make meaning of what has been read. It requires students to use background knowledge, decoding skills, vocabulary, critical thinking to construct the meaning of the text. While students are using their comprehension strategies, we are going to teach them to think about establishing a purpose for reading, using their background knowledge and drawing on things that they already know, teaching them to monitor, clarify, and adjust while they're reading, being able to draw an inference, summarize, predict, visualize, make a connection, and retell, and then of course to draw on any language structures and vocabulary as they read. So all of these skills are actively taught and discussed throughout any time that we are doing reading instruction. So the graphic you guys saw the last time that I had the opportunity to be in front of you. This is the reading rope. And it really is a wonderful infographic that shows the simple view of reading that we started with. So word recognition and that language comprehension have to work together to create that skilled reader. And then you will see again that we have provided you the different opportunities in the reading instructional block where these different components are addressed, whether it's through structured literacy, shared reading, our mini lesson, or our small group instruction. So the question is one component from the science of reading more important than the other four components? Well, the science of reading emphasizes all of these components. They all work together to create that skilled reader. So they should all be taught systematically and explicitly. Phonics is often considered an important foundational component in the primary grades, and it is that important component. It directly teaches the connection between the letters and the sounds, which is essential for that decoding and building that fluency. So what is a literacy-rich classroom? A literacy-rich classroom is a classroom that motivates students to build their literacy skills by emphasizing the importance of listening, speaking, reading, writing, and thinking, and providing multiple opportunities to interact and develop these skills. As teachers, we are teaching students to read as well as to be readers. So what is a community of readers? All children are readers with a variety of interests at various reading levels. And as readers, teachers share their enthusiasm for reading and thinking during that reading time. As children learn to decode words and the meaning of words, they understand that they are building these skills to read for meaning and understanding. Readers are allowed to choose what they read from a wide variety of reading materials and text types that are motivating to them. The available texts reflect the children's own identities, personal experiences, and provide opportunities to learn about other people's experiences. That is why we work hard at building those classroom libraries with a variety of texts for students to select from. So we do have some progress monitoring opportunities for reading achievement. We can use our DRA, that developmental reading assessment, to assess comprehension, fluency, accuracy, and vocabulary. This is administered at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year for all K-3 students. We also have our M-Class assessment for phonemic awareness and phonics. This is administered at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year for all K-2 students. We also have our MAP growth assessment, as well as different formative assessments that teachers can do to make sure that students are progressing in the way that they need to progress.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Of course.
So I just want to lift up some next steps and just a reminder of what is going on at the state level with the House Bill 1605, with the instructional materials, and then some things that we have in place. So as you remember, the instructional materials review approval, the IMRA, replaces the former State Board of Education proclamation and Texas resource review process that was in place. So this change was enacted with House Bill 1605. The State Board recently met, and we are expecting in November that they will return with resources that will be placed on their first approved list under this new process. And then at that time, districts will be able to access the additional allotments authorized by House Bill 1605. So we're waiting for more information. We should have that, and at that time, districts will have the option of looking at the materials on that list and analyzing if those are materials that they would be considered, or if they have materials that exist that covered 100% of the text. So that's forthcoming. Also, just want to lift up, it's not just your K-5 reading language arts and your Spanish language arts, but also K-3 phonics, and then also we'll be looking at K-12 math eventually as well too. So that's part of the process that the State Board is working through right now. Also, just want to remind you that the 3 queuing systems has come up. We are still waiting for guidance from the agency. They published in March 8th of 2024. There is a series, a 3-part webinar series to provide districts guidance on House Bill 1605. And it still says coming soon for the one on the queuing system. So we are waiting on guidance on that. However, just a reminder that our queuing systems were used as prompting. We have taken those out of our resources, so our teachers are not using those right now. Their decodable books are included in our early literacy classrooms. We did have, the foundation was gracious that provided some funding for that. And we had a mix-up that one of the campus thought they got double the amount, which actually they did not, and purchased decodable books for their campus. So we're making sure that the other elementary campus does have the same amount of decodable books as well. And, you know, we are always looking to build our classroom libraries, as well as our books that we use for our small group instruction, which are our leveled books and our decodable books. So our kids will have access to those, not just in their small group instruction, but the classroom libraries as well too. So parents could see those coming home, but they also could see them in their book boxes. I just want to kind of lift up, just to let you know and put it in context, the number of books that a first grader would have in their book box every week would be 10 to 12 books. So you multiply that by the number of students in a classroom over a year's time. So our classroom libraries, and we made some adjustments, if you recall, based on our changes with our campus libraries and classroom libraries, that we did want to ensure we knew what was in there. So we did take some books out of that, but we are rebuilding those currently. Also, we are reviewing board policy EFA local. And we'll be coming back to you in the future about some considerations there. And we're just, again, waiting on following further guidance and information from TEA regarding instructional resources, and continuing to analyze our reading language arts resources to ensure we're meeting the needs of our students. And also, we hosted a parent information meeting last week. We had a morning session and an evening session. And we had about 9 parents come to the morning session, and 5 came for the evening session. So our teachers, we were so proud of the work that they did, and I think our feedback from our parents gleaned from some great insight on what's going on in our classrooms.
I just have a quick comment on that. Thank you for all of the work you're doing, and thank you to all the teachers that spent extra time and put themselves available for showing what they do every day. The science of reading is the science of reading, but kids are not linear. My experience of owning a Kumon for 10 years, I had over 1,000 students. And systematically, we would teach and try to show this systematic approach. And they don't all follow. As we all know, we raise children. So please have some grace for teachers who are in the classroom every day, loving your kids and doing the very best they can. That's all I want to say.
Questions? I appreciate the presentation, the extra effort, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this to bring us up to speed, so thank you. All right, item 23 tonight is our district improvement plan. Dr. Tinsley.
Okay, so what I'm bringing forth to you is that the district improvement plan is brought forth to the board annually for review and approval. And so tonight's presentation is just strictly a presentation. I'll be bringing it back to the November board meeting for your approval. And at that time, our principals will also be bringing forth the campus improvement plans for your approval as well. So I'm going to move into just to want to do a refresh of the decision-making process that we have with our district improvement team. That is outlined in Texas Education Code, that we have a planning and decision-making process at the district level and also at the campus level. And the purpose is to establish a collaborative approach to improve student achievement for all students. And the purpose of the teams is to collaborate as an advisory committee to improve, clarify, develop, and communicate educational ideas and goals to enhance the learning environment for our LISD students. The district and campus improvement teams are comprised of district campus administrators, teachers, parents, students, business representatives, and community leaders. And then it's through these committees that the district develops the district and campus improvement plans. And just to lift up who our members are, our composition. And when I mention advisory, these are the areas that we do utilize our district improvement team and our campus improvement teams to serve in an advisory role with planning, staffing, budgeting, curriculum, school organization, and staff development. This is our 2024 district improvement team members, and as you see that about 2/3 of the teaching staff, we ensure that they are classroom teachers. We have non-teaching professional staff representatives that are not actually teachers in the classroom, but they are professional staff members. We have parent representatives, community representatives, business, and district. So the expected results of our site-based decision-making, number one, is to improve student achievement, make sure we have an effective planning process in place. We include community involvement. We have accountability for the measures that we put in place that we want to achieve for our students. It supports communication and information flow, collaborative decision, effective distribution of funds, how we utilize our funds, and coordination of our regular and our special program components. So how does this begin? Our needs assessment is ongoing, so we're looking at student data. We're gathering feedback through quantitative and qualitative measures. We identify our areas of focus, which is guided, and you'll see in just a minute, from the board and the superintendent. We identify goals, then we identify performance objectives. We then include strategies on how we're going to achieve those performance objectives. We have progress monitoring measures that we have in place. And then we identify funding sources to implement our performance objectives. And then there's an evaluation of our planning and decision-making process that we put in place as well. So just wanted to kind of show you how the alignment of the goals are in the district improvement plan. We take the board goals, the superintendent goals, and then we derive our goals for the DIP plan through that. So if you'll look at goal one is learning, and LISD will prioritize high levels of student learning and academic excellence. And then goal 2 is innovation, and LISD will prepare students for future-ready success. So I lifted up there what the LISD board district priorities were, where it does support that area of learning and innovation, and then also the superintendent goals 3 and 4 also align with goals 1 and 2. Goal 3 is people. Lovejoy ISD will recruit, retain, support, and develop personnel resulting in a positive student experience. Again, you'll see a alignment with the board district priority, number 2, and how it supports people. And again, the superintendent's goals align as well. And then you'll see the same with safety. LISD will support a safe and secure environment for students and staff. Your board goals also support that, and the superintendent goals outline the safe and secure environment for students and staff. And then we added the goal 5 for parents and community, which LISD will celebrate, connect, and communicate with stakeholders, and that aligns with the Lovejoy ISD board district priority number 3 about prioritizing community connection and communication. So I think that's pretty powerful when you see the alignment from the board, the superintendent, and then your district planning team. So I'm going to go into the goals and the performance objectives for each of these, and then some cabinet members are going to come and lift up some of the areas that they have oversight on. So the first one is focused on learning, and there are several performance objectives within learning. And we, as I mentioned, we are lifting up the House Bill 3 goals, and you'll see performance objective 1 and 2 are the two goals that we lifted up with STAR Math and STAR Reading. And then we added the percentage for performance objective 3, the percentage of our 5th grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR Reading will increase from 79% to 82% or higher by 2025. We also identified in 5th grade that we needed to work on some improvement on our STAR Math, and that will, our performance objective is that we will increase from 74% to 84% or higher by 2025. And then also with 5th grade STAR Science, will increase from 47% to 70%, and that's a big jump. When we're talking about growth, I want to lift up that we did have a significant number of students that did not meet grade level on that. That was also a dip at the state level as well. As we mentioned earlier, there's some work that we've been doing with our staff as far as really analyzing the test and the changes in that, and then how we're looking at the process standards and teaching that with ensuring that we're solid on that as well. Performance objective 6 has been on our plan for the last couple of years with social studies, and I do want to lift up that we have seen growth over the last couple of years with our social studies STAR at 8th grade, but we wanted to keep it on there because we want to at least hit that 70% mark of meeting grade level or above on STAR by 2025. I want to reference here also with college and career. This was the performance objective that we lifted up for to increase from 92% to 95% by 2025 on CCMR readiness, and to 98% by 2028. Performance objective 8 is a little different, and I want to kind of explain this, is that part of the way that we are now, there are 2 scores that a student actually receives on STAR. They receive a performance, and they also receive what we call a growth score. So what the difference in the test starting in 2023 is that the expectation is that students achieve a year's learning in a year's time. So if a student, and this is for reading and math only, so if you're in 4th grade and you meet on 4th grade reading, to demonstrate a year's growth, you would have to meet on 5th grade reading. And the same thing where if you were at master's on 4th grade reading, to show a year's growth, you would have to meet master's on 5th grade reading. So that growth measure was a big change with the scoring and the way that districts were being evaluated on performance of students. So we felt that it was important that we added this to our district improvement plan, and based on our collection of information, we had about 77% of our students that demonstrated a year's growth. And so what we're projecting is that we would meet 82% or more by 2025. And you've heard us talk a lot about professional learning communities, and that our instruction will be designed using those 4 guiding questions. And those questions are, what do we want our students to learn? How will we know if they've learned it? What will we do if they have not learned it? What will we do if they have learned it? So those are guiding questions that our teachers are using in their planning for instruction. And then you've heard us talk also about our unit planning guides. Those are guides that we want to ensure our teachers are using, so we're focusing on our priority standards, and we're seeing that in instruction. Performance objective 10 is to ensure we implement a systematic student progress monitoring to support high levels of achievement for all students. You've heard us talk about our balanced assessment plan that involves common formative assessments that are done very frequently. There's interim assessments that we just talked a little bit about when you heard us lift up MAP, growth, DRA, M-class, and then of course there's summative assessment, which is your SAT, ACT, AP exams, and your your STAR assessments. And 11 addresses implementing intervention and enrichment opportunities for all students. And then 12 is will implement a comprehensive school counseling program to include guidance curriculum, responsive services, individual planning, and student support. So that's a mouthful with learning. Goal 1, does anyone have any questions before I move on to goal 2? Okay.
That goal specific on the last one to counseling, is that new?
No, we've had that, and that's part of House Bill 18. There are some measures, though, that we are going to put in place, some strategies at the campuses, and I'm going to lift up Lovejoy High School as an area that we've got some work that we're going to be doing with that. So you'll hear some of that with Mr. Wheeler when he comes forward with the campus improvement plan. But that has been on our plan for several years. Okay, so innovation. Lovejoy ISD will prepare students for future-ready success. So performance objective 1 is that what we want to see in our classroom instruction is that students are engaging in critical thinking, collaboration, communication, inquiry, problem-solving, creativity, innovation, and a practice of resilience. And we lifted these out from some work that we did back with Lovejoy 2030, that this is when as a community, these were some of the future-ready, work-life-ready skills that we wanted to ensure that our students are using, and as our teachers are using as well. We're also going to be implementing a K-12 STEM curriculum, and I'll share a little bit more about that with my curriculum update, that reflects life-ready competencies and aligns with the LISD graduate profile. And then also objective 3, provide students an innovative experience with technology to enhance individual student learning outcomes. Objective 4, prepare students to be college ready upon graduation, possessing the knowledge and skills for success at a higher education institution. And then performance objective 5, provide technologies and opportunities to earn certifications that prepare students for workforce-ready skills. And that covers innovation. Okay, Annie, you want to talk about people?
Good evening, and our goal 3 is Lovejoy ISD will recruit, retain, support, and develop personnel resulting in a positive student learning experience. One thing that we are looking at is increasing student retention. It's something that's very, very important with us, keeping those best teachers here and supporting those. We'll also continue our partnerships with universities and alternative certification programs. We currently work with Texas A&M University Commerce and UTD. You've heard us talk about the grant program that we use for teacher residents there, so we can recruit and retain them also. We currently have 10 in that program. We'll also provide multiple avenues of support to teachers and leaders through professional development in an effort to retain and grow our own staff. So looking for those pathways, we're currently doing some things. For example, even today when we brought in our principals, working on leadership skills, helping them support our teachers, calibrating and looking at monitoring how we look at student growth and opportunities in the classroom, and monitoring our students and monitoring for growth there. Objective 4 is providing multiple avenues of support and growth for new and our veteran teachers through professional development, mentorships, and individual teacher goal setting. You heard Ms. Perez talk earlier about externships and some of those types of things. Actually, next Monday, we have our mentorship professional development that day, and we invite both our brand new teachers to that and their mentors. They spend half a day together. We sort them by elementary and secondary, and so we bring them in and provide some specific training and give them an opportunity to work together so we can make them feel comfortable, especially those new teachers, and ask questions of things they probably don't want to ask their campus administrator, and just a little bit more comfortable there. And then I'm also going to talk about that when I give my update, more opportunities for professional development when we're talking about deficits of non-instructional staff and providing opportunities for growth, learning, and certification. We do encourage the teachers to seek certification right now and more opportunities. As you know, we have many teachers in the National Board Certification seeking national board certification so they can also receive TIA allotment supports there. And we did work with our foundation to provide, they provide some money there to provide for our teachers to seek that national board certification and get TIA allotment money there.
On objective 1, is it by a percentage, or how are we measuring that one?
Yes, we're going to look at percentage at that also, working for a baseline. We have to do it in proportion because we also lost about 25 staff members, teachers, so we're going to look at that as a, like we know we had to lose because our enrollment went down. But yes, we're going to be looking at those types of things. Yeah. And go 4 is safety.
All right, good evening. We're excited to present on Goal 4 safety. I will take the first 2 performance objectives and then hand off to Mr. Percival and then finish up here at the end. So performance objective 1, we will implement evidence-based practices that address student welfare, and then we address certain areas in conflict resolution and bullying prevention, among the others, extremely important. And so we'll have both proactive and awareness type lessons for our students in these areas, as well as reactive resources and resources for our teachers and administrators to respond to these. So it's both the proactive and reactive measures, as well as completing the state mandated and best practice education programs in these areas at each campus for each level. And then really excited about the work that we're still doing with systematically implementing positive behavior interventions and supports. What you'll see across the district in regard to just building our culture and building our positive behaviors and expectations across each campus is you might see Pride at Hart and Puster, Roar at Sloan Creek and Willow Springs, and then an acronym, that the admin team at the high school is making, just talking about, what as Leopards at our school do we hold tight to, and having lessons regarding respect, cafeteria, keeping that clean, stuff like that, and then how are we acting throughout the common areas, hallways, and things like that. And so that's a big part of PBIS, and I'll talk a little bit about that in PO5, but I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Percival for POs 3 and 4.
Thank you, sir. So performance objective number 3 says Lovejoy will foster partnerships with local first responders to strengthen all facets of emergency management, including prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. And so what that looks like in our district is any opportunity we get to partner with our local first responders, whether it be responding to a situation, whether it be training, or maybe just coming together for a breakfast and some fellowship. So any opportunity we get to plug in and really continue to build on those relationships, we take full advantage of. They have been tremendous. And as you guys know, we're unique in that we have multiple municipalities that respond here within our school district. And so because of that uniqueness, it's also a huge asset for us and just more reason to make sure that we continue to foster those relationships. Performance objective number 4 says Lovejoy will support a safe and secure environment for all students and staff through an emphasis on ongoing training and proactive measures. And again, what this is going to look like for our school district is everybody from our students, our staff, leadership both at campus and the district level, as well as our school marshals, will continue to have ongoing training and exercises. We do this monthly at the campus level. And we've also layered in some additional training this year and taken it a little bit deeper than what we have this past year in relation to emergency management and just overall awareness, so that we've kind of worked through and have a plan in the event that we do need to respond to an emergency, whether it be small or large.
All right, and then I like performance objective 5 because it brings really performance objectives 1 and 2 together with number 5 for that comprehensive discipline management plan. And so when you think about a full discipline management plan, it'll encompass intervention strategies, referral plans, discipline strategies, expectations, and of course our anonymous reporting protocol that's available in the top right corner of all of our websites. And so if you backwards design this performing objective and look at an authentic and comprehensive discipline plan, you know, when you look at the Student Services Resource Center now, where our assistant principals and principals can go for everything in regard to templates and FFI, FFH investigation checklists and things like that, that's great, and those are things that were definitely needed and we put to good use. But all the way back, working with our staffs this year in regard to starting the year with professional development, where our teachers watched a video with Simon Sinek and really talked about building relationships and their why. The point of a discipline management plan is really to teach our leopards how to act and represent excellence, right? And so being able to get the teachers also the resources to build relationships and monitor their classroom management, and then with what Dr. Tinsley's been talking about a lot tonight with C&I and having high engaging lessons, when that engagement and learning is high, you're going to have less of those behaviors. So it really all kind of comes together where we continue to have proactive and reactive ways to ensure that our comprehensive discipline plan is successful. And then I'll start with performance objective 6. And then Mr. P, feel free to add anything that I miss here. But Lovejoy ISD will implement support and processes for mental health and behavioral threat assessment. And so we have done a lot of work central and then with our campuses and regarding that mental health and behavioral threat assessment. Texas School Safety Center offers trainings for our administrators and then counseling, special education reps, et cetera, to be able to be trained in behavioral threat assessment. And really, you go down flow charts and the work becomes, you know, is it a mental health side where we need to respond to a student that way, or a true actual behavioral threat? And we have the resources and the training to be able to take them through those protocols to ensure that that student's getting the care and attention that they need, but also the rest of our leopards are safe at school. And it's a real committee approach between district and the campus, and then we check all our boxes that way and continue to monitor. And that's Goal 4 safety. Thank you.
I do want to go back, and I don't think it made the presentation, but there is a goal in learning that's regarding attendance. So I'll get that updated, but increase attendance rate to 96% or higher for the 24-25 school year. So my apologies, it didn't make it. Also, so Goal 5 is parents and community. Performance Objective 1, LISD will implement opportunities for stakeholders involvement to increase transparency and leverage collective collaboration, resulting in improved outcomes for our kiddos. Objective Performance 2, explore and establish partnerships that enhance student learning experiences. And then Performance Objective 3, explore and support pathways for students, families, and the community to contribute to the school or district by maximizing talents and resources, resulting in enhanced student learning experiences. So all of these goals were shared, and we gathered feedback from our district improvement team last week, and so we wanted to present it to you. And if you have any questions or feedback, we are open to receiving that, and we'll come back in November to request your approval.
Board, any questions? Well presented, thank you. Item 24 is update on the LHS and Willow Springs Middle School library furniture.
So we have kind of slowed down to make sure we're doing a thorough analysis of our needs and at the libraries at both Willow Springs and Lovejoy High School. So what I'm bringing you tonight are renderings of the layout and then also the estimated cost or the quotes that we received. So the library media centers, we're really intending for those to be a learning hub for our students, multi-purpose areas that our students can use and our teachers can also take classes in. So at the high school, this is I'm going to just share a few layouts with you. You'll see that this is removing a lot of the high shelves, making it much more open, collaborative spaces for our students to work, or to work with a group or work independently. This is a different view. Also, some of these stations have where our students can utilize technology, some charging areas. These tables you actually can write on as students are working together, and having some screens around to where if they are working collaboratively or in small groups or projects, they'll have access to that as well. Another view of the groupings. So it looks very different. It's very open. To the left there would be the entrance to the library. And those are some high top tables like what we have down in the entrance of the high school. And again, you can see the shelving is much lower than what we have right now. And the tables are adjustable. And you'll find that, you notice that they're also mobile. They have wheels on them, and then you see a lot of the furniture would be flexible where you could move it around. I've actually even got some examples here of the colors and the seating that we've been working with the vendor on. So it allows for a lot of flexibility for our students. This view here, you'll see a couple of screens that the students could utilize as well. So I'm not going to go through everything. This active floor learning space that you see, the big white space, all of our campuses now have those. If you've been in any of our libraries, those were funded by the foundation, and they're interactive. Well, I think we did do a presentation one evening with you all with that, so that's what that is. And again, that can be moved around. And the shelving is accessible. Okay, so that's Lovejoy High School. Now Willow Springs is a little different layout. So what you see at the bottom is when you're walking toward the library, that's that curved area. Again, if you have been in the Willow Springs Library, that shelving is very tall. It's not a very open space. That campus does use their library for their staff to come together, their staff meetings. We do feel like that the seating in here will still accommodate for that as well. Again, a lot of similarities that you're going to see. It's just a different layout. But the furniture is all mobile, adjustable, allows for a lot of flexibility. Some soft seating is included in all of these in both libraries.
Would this be for the next school year?
What we're hoping is that I'm presenting it to you tonight, and we would bring it back in the November meeting for you to consider approval, and that we would like, if you approve it, we'd like to purchase it and go ahead and make the transition during this school year.
I just want to make sure if a bond is called upon and we do renovations, that we don't waste money.
I think those are some things we've considered as well, just to make sure that it's anything that we do, that it's something that would fall in line with some of the discussions that we've had in the capital planning of some of the learning spaces for our kids.
Dr. Tinsley, you said November, bringing it forward in November.
Excuse me, October. I'm jumping ahead. I'm already in October. The October board meeting is when we would bring it forward. Thank you, sorry.
Mr. Wheelis, that is a really good question, and we've asked ourselves that on every project, including this, making sure that it would make that transition. You'll recall recently as well, even the auditorium lighting as well, the question if there was a renovation, would we be able to, pull it out, reinstall? So trying to be very mindful of the long-term investment for anything we're doing.
So I'm going to move on. Go ahead.
I thought we had previously approved some of these funds for the library. Is this because some of the quotes came in different, or is this?
Over the summer, when our original timeline and goal was to have this done prior to the start of the school year, you did do a not to exceed. And because we decided to slow down a little bit, which I think was really prudent, to make sure we got the input of the librarians, got the staff around the table when we realized the timeline was going to be longer, wanting to give you all the opportunity to look at it and get you a much more accurate price point so that you have that consideration. We also felt like it was important. We knew that Mr. Willman was going to be presenting on a bond project and bond fund update as well. Just thought it would be prudent to bring that back to you and to be as transparent with our community as possible.
So what this slide shares with you is that the estimated costs that we've received from the vendor, our librarians, Dinah Salak, our coordinator of instructional technology, as well as our principals, have spent some time. We've worked with several different vendors, and also working with our architect, received some feedback on some possible vendors to consider as well too. This particular vendor, these are the quotes that they came forward with. It does provide you the seating capacity in both of those libraries that this would provide, which is a significant increase, particularly at both of those campuses than what we currently have now with our tables and our chairs. As I noted, the furniture is flexible, mobile, and adaptable based on the learning experience we want our kids to have. It does include soft seating, collaborative spaces, charging stations, and spaces for creation activities. There are some rideable surfaces. We will be using some existing shelving, but not all of it. This price does include delivery and installation, and we would be using the columns for power at the high school, and then we will need some additional, this includes some additional shelving for Willow Springs. So with the total of that is what we're asking. I mean, when we bring it back, we just wanted you to have an idea of the estimated costs that we are projecting at this time.
Questions for Dr. Tinsley? Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Item 25 is communication update for Leopard Marketing and Trademarks.
Okay, good evening. Our marketing program focuses on building relationships and creating partnerships with local businesses while generating revenue for LISD. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. To give you some numbers, right now we have two different types of programs. We have anchor sponsorship, which is primarily sports related at the gym, and of course at Leopard Stadium. And then we have community partners, which are more like with Connect with Katie, those types of things. Currently, for this year, right now we'll bring in an estimated $164,000 through these two programs. All the marketing revenue is retained by the district and is, of course, put into the general fund. There are, of course, a lot of fundraising going on, additional fundraising opportunities. For example, event sponsorship for district initiatives like Heart of Support, Heart of Teacher, recognitions, those types of things. Incentive programs are offered. We also have things for, we have sponsorships for like end of the year staff celebration, those types of things. And then nonprofit, some of our booster clubs offer program-specific fundraising there too. So when we go out and we market to our community, we want to tell them the great things that are going on in Lovejoy, and they ask why Lovejoy. And so we talk about how we're ranked in the top 1% of traditional high schools in the nation. We talk about how we're the best communities for music education, Platinum AP Honor Roll and AP Access Awards, and of course the Lone Star Cup winner and runner-up 2 years. We also share information about the community, what the population is, average home value, average household income, and then of course about 4,400 residents there too. So we share this information with our community partners. When we look at kind of who we touch and what our numbers are, our average varsity football game, we have about 3,000 in attendance there. 4,000 Lovejoy students we know, and our Connect with Katie subscribers, we have over 8,000 subscribers there. Interesting enough, lots of people talk to us about them from other districts. They follow us too and ask us how we put that together every week, and we've shared a lot of information about Connect with Katie and the amount of subscribers we have there. We do have anchor sponsors, and currently we have 4 anchor sponsors, and this is the highest level of sponsorship in our district. And so we have Robertson Orthodontist, Ryan Dental Group, and Children's Health and Shattuck Homes do that. And what we do, and I'm going to show you some samples here, we have printed signage at the stadium, at the gym. We have digital logos. They can do commercials. You probably have seen those at the football games, PA announcements throughout the games. And at designated events. So they are done both at varsity, basketball, volleyball, and football. And they also were very exclusive that we don't have more than one business in that field. So we talked with Robertson Orthodontists, and they say we don't compete with Ryan Dental, so that's why we have 2 dental groups there. But we would not take another dentist or anything as an anchor sponsor. As far as static signage, I'm sure you probably have seen this outside at the concession stands, and we are going to add some new signage there. We display it, year-round in prominent places, and what we hope to do as we move in and sign, and if we do sign another anchor sponsor or as they renew, we are going to put signage in at Hart and Pester in the elementary car line. We're going to put it at Sloan Creek. That car line by the Nanatorium and Track, Willow Springs, the very same thing, and of course continue at Lovejoy High School and multiple locations there. So we are marketing their business as patrons arrive in the district. We also do digital displays, pre-game anchor sponsor, pre-A announcements. You've seen those logos displayed on the Jumbotron, the commercials, announcements, like if there's a timeout or a pause. It really depends on the game, so and the timing of the game. So we do monitor that. We have a script every week to make sure we get those in there. We also in the gym during regular seasons we'll do in-game kind of digital feature commercials or an advertisement there, and PA announcements. Also, you'll see in print advertising, we have, we did publish this past year kind of the who we are. We also do Connect with Katie throughout the year from August to May. And so for our anchor sponsors, they will, they have a football sponsorship night. So they have a home game where they have access to the VIP press box, on-field recognition in the pregame. We do the same thing at the gym. So they have that opportunity to have a specific night to showcase their business. And they also receive 5 reserved season tickets to the regular season, a parking pass, which is, they tell us is one of the best things they get, and of course, 5 passes to regular season volleyball games too. So it's something else that our anchor sponsors will receive. Anchor sponsor, the investment is $25,000 a year, and they sign a contract for usually 5 years. And then, of course, with our community partners, this is our Connect with Katie newsletter advertising partners. They can have a full, a half, or a quarter page that does go out every week that we are in school. We usually do 2 weeks before school starts, and then we do our graduation that last week there. All the revenue is retained in the district and goes into our general fund. And there is a platinum sponsor, which is the full page, and we do have clickable links that go directly to their websites, the half page and the quarter page there. And that investment for a platinum is $5,000 for the year, $3,000 for a gold, and $2,000 for the silver. We also are looking into, we know how important our trademarks are, and we wanted to do everything we can to preserve and to dedicate and to preserve our branding, history, and legacy. So we have been just started the process of registering some of our common law trademarks through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, for additional protection there. So these are some of the ones that we have started the process of registering the trademarks, the double L's, the schoolhouse, the leopard, and then the Texas LL, the Lovejoy leopard. So we've started those 4. We started the first 2 about probably 9-10 months ago, and then we've added a couple of more. So we're in that process. It takes apparently up to 2 years to do that. It does provide a lot of research of when that trademark was used, how it's being used, and so it takes some time to get that information together and get those registered. But we've started those process with those 4 trademarks there. So wanted to give you some information there. We do have some next steps there, and we're just, like I said, this is just the start of the process. We need to look and see kind of what the assessment of our Lovejoy ISD logo usage is right now. We're also looking at surrounding districts and doing some research of what best practices is and guiding, just gathering some information and data there, and then developing an application process for logo usage and possibly the consideration of an application fee for that logo usage too. But that's where we are there. We've been working on that, as I said, several months. Of course, we just want to preserve our history. It's important that we caring for our legacy of excellence there, and so that's where we are with our marketing and trademarking. Questions?
How do we determine our pricing strategies for these and capacity, I guess, for how many anchor sponsors can we accommodate and where it doesn't feel like it's being watered down?
That's a good question. So we're very careful about anchor sponsors because it's really how much time and as we research that, like where's their space in like a football game or a gym game. We don't want to overpromise anything. And as I said, we have a checklist that we go through. We possibly could go to, we had 5, we lost 1. We possibly have talked about going to 6, but we need to do some more research on that as far as anchor sponsors. As far as the trademarking and usage fees and those types of things, we're just in the development stages of that. We know we have the trademarks. We just want to protect them by registering them. I'm hoping to gather data from some surrounding districts. That's what we've been doing.
Same thing on the community sponsors as we looked at what others are doing?
Exactly.
I mean, because that could get saturated where people feel like.
And we're pretty careful with that, making sure that we don't have too many realtors in there, making sure that, that they're getting their money's worth. Interesting enough, they usually come to us. In fact, we just signed another contract today that you'll see going into our next Connect with Katie. But because they do reach 8,000 people, and I mean, it's people talk about it. It's something special, and we're fortunate that that we're able to put that together and share that. So it's been a very positive.
Do we have the ability to do any type of kind of post-analysis of the people when they've, like almost like an exit interview, if they've been previous sponsors and where they're seeing return and not, and are we doing that type of analysis?
Yeah, we are. And I know, like, one of the sponsors, Fairview Dermatologies, they have a new ownership, and it was a change of ownership. We have a great relationship with them. But, it was just a change of ownership. But we've had others reach out to us. And so, as I said, we're signing another community partner today that will, be sharing that information since we get everything done there. It's definitely been it's been a very much of a learning curve for me in a process. And it's just, taking the time to develop those relationships with them, with other people. So, but if anyone's interested, they are more than welcome to reach out.
I mean, the revenue generated from this, along with the facility usage fees that we're improving. I mean, there's a lot of sources we're capitalizing on, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, there are. Any other questions?
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, cabinet reports.
Okay, I alluded to this earlier. And I've shared with you our new STEM program guide, and STEM, of course, stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So STEM education here in Lovejoy focuses on our future-ready skills, hands-on experiences, engineering design, computational thinking processes, and project-based learning and design challenges. So What is STEM? It's a way of thinking. It's not a subject to be taught. It's not a set of activities. It cultivates inquisitiveness, persistence, intellectual risk-taking, and problem-solving. It's how we think and act, and it prepares students to make positive and productive contributions to society. So year one, with this rollout of our new program guide, is to create a common understanding of STEM education here in Lovejoy and the fluency skills across all disciplines. So we have formed a STEM council to assist us with identifying additional needs and develop strategies to achieve goals. And the council is comprised of staff members, parents, business, and community members. So we're really excited about this team. And then year two, we'll be presenting a comprehensive STEM education program plan. So I just wanted to lift up who our council members are here. You have, as you can see, there's representation from those groups that I mentioned. And we met recently, and these are just some photos from our recent STEM council meeting. We started brainstorming those areas that I mentioned earlier, those fluency skills, the future ready skills, and so this was just some of the work that we did. So we're excited that this has been launched and the work that we have moving forward.
Good evening. So the finance and student nutrition update. On the finance side, just we're wrapping up the final months of tax collection for the 23 tax year. We'll start looking at the 24 tax year, usually typically in the October-November timeframe. So in the month of August, we collected about $53,000, which resulted in roughly about 99.6% of overall tax collections compared to the revised tax levy. And then on the student nutrition side, the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, they're in the process of conducting an administrative review and procurement review of the program. This review, the reason for this review is because our primary and intermediate schools are on the National School Lunch Program, so we receive federal funding for free and reduced lunches there. So this review happens every 5 years. So this review will focus mainly on 3 compliance areas, which is program, financial, and procurement, along with an evaluation of the district's operational processes and procedures. So this review is already in the works. We've already started uploading documents for the financial and procurement side of things, and then on December 10th, they will do an on-site review of the programs at each of the schools. And then as it relates to student nutrition, we now currently have 11 unfilled positions as of today, but we were able to onboard 2 additional staff who saw the wonderful signage out front. Thank you, HR team. And then we also got 2 more applicants that we're in the process of bringing on, so we've netted 3 positions. But we still have quite a bit of unfilled positions, and our team is working really hard to ensure that our meals are prepared each and every day. Thank you.
Mine's just a quick update. Many people ask what we do on our teacher planning days for the rest of staff that work, and this is a great opportunity for us to do professional development on these days. We're not having to pull staff off when students are there. We wouldn't want to pull our school marshals off and do training, so it gives them an opportunity to do SWAT training or pistol and rifle range. That's what they've done the past 2 teacher planning days. Also, I know our instructional and special education aides were able to do some great behavior management support training with Allison Kalanch, our director there, and just providing that opportunity to pull that staff together, to train them well, that ties directly into our district improvement team. Our people our goal number 3 about training staff and people, so it gives us that opportunity.
Student services update. We're going to go through athletics, fine arts, Leopard Friday, and some Friday night football reminders. So jumping into especially LHS athletics, varsity football. As you know, we played two really tough opponents to start the year and got a lot of great experience. And then as we started district, we opened up with Frisco Liberty and homecoming game and won that 76-0. And then one of the coolest games I've ever seen, and Coach Dodge said, you know, in the Dallas Morning News, one of the coolest games he's ever had a chance to coach in. We beat Anna High School at Anna 66-62. It was 49-41 at halftime, and if you like touchdowns, well, it's a good one. And the coolest thing about that, one of the coolest points I think in my career, so I'm on the track watching the game with Wes Watson, our basketball coach and campus athletic coordinator, and Anna drives down the field. We're ahead by 4. Anna drives down the field, and they throw a pass into the end zone. As time expires, we intercept it to end the game. And the coolest part was our kids, our football players come off the field, and they're celebrating. And there was this moment where you have like the band, the Majestics, cheerleaders, the guard, and our kids just all came together. And the whole community was still in the stands, and it was just, we were so excited to be Leopards and so excited to win. So really cool if you're there that night to see that. Varsity volleyball, looking to defend their state title, right? Played a really challenging non-district schedule, went to Florida to compete with teams there, but now has gone into district, remains undefeated in district, and playing Greenville on October 1st at home. Varsity team tennis update. The last time I talked with Coach Denham, we had only lost one match in district, and we have one match left now versus Sherman on October 1st away, and then we'll go into postseason play. And so he was excited about that. Varsity boys and girls cross country update. So different meets around the area, running in the super elite divisions, right, where we're running against 6A schools and we're competing very, very well. And a lot of articles have been written there. And so Coach Kelly, Coach Littlefield really excited. And we have the district district cross country meet coming up on October 8th. And so we'll get you some more tentative, those details right there are tentative. We'll get you some more details there. But we're excited now to watch our kids compete at district, regionals, and then hopefully the state meet, right? And with both teams, again, having a chance to win state. Remember last year, we were one of the only teams in history that's ever won boys and girls state champions. What if we did that again this year? So pretty exciting and going to be fun to watch over the next few months. Fine arts update. This past weekend, LHS Band and Color Guard, Melissa Marching Showcase recap. And so I had the pleasure to watch some of the halftime show with a few of you. And that show has progressed, and they have a tower and Rapunzel and hair. And so they were able to do the whole show and competed hard and was their first like real showcase. Bands of America is now this next weekend. So they're going to be at Pennington Field doing that. But on this last one, Color Guard actually got 5th place overall. So it's been really, really cool with Miss Garcia to see what she's done with that Color Guard program too. LHS cheer, preparing for our Blacklight Pep Rally. That'll be on the game before we play Frisco Independence here in a few weeks. And just a special thank you to LHS cheer with convocation and then with the Lone Star Cup reception. Cheer got in there with the balloons and everything, and they make that place really come alive. So just Coach Wiggins and all of them, just thank you so much. Wanted to give a public shout out to how much cheer has helped us. LHS Theater this past weekend, first major show of the year, and my first time to see Steel Magnolias. So they did a Friday show, a Saturday afternoon show, and a Saturday evening show, and just acting, the tech work, the accents and things like that. Really good show of just excellence and how hard they've all worked on that. So really proud of them. LHS Orchestra, fall orchestra concert coming up on October 3rd. The Majestics, homecoming, and Jacqueline Simone does a great job with like a lot of our pep rally prep with Coach Wiggins. So LHS Majestics are having a great start to the year, and they did their, at homecoming, they also had their mini Majestics where they had, probably 50 or 60 mini Majestics down there on the field with them, and they did their pregame stuff. So pretty cool to see that community involvement. Lovejoy Visual Arts, they have their summer assignment exhibition. So their AP coursework that they did over the summer, when you guys are at Leopard Friday, make sure to go into the gallery and you can look at the really impressive paintings and works that our artists did over the summer to get ready for this year. And then talking with Jeb today, there is a choir coffee concert Saturday night at 7:30 in the Commons. So go do that. That'll be a great weekend after Leopard Friday. We'll need some coffee. So those are the fine arts updates. And then real quick, I wanted to talk about Leopard Friday and just some quick reminders that our community will be seeing through different principal emails and some other mediums throughout the week. And so home football games, really just everything's been going great from a safety standpoint. The clear bag policy, football team's obviously undefeated in district, and just a great hometown community feel where it all comes together. Just a quick reminder, we're going to do some things just to make sure that everyone has a really, really safe and really enjoyable experience. Our K through fourth graders, really important that they come to the game with their parents, with an adult, right? And that they're supervised and sitting with their parents in the stands. And the fifth through eighth graders, so our Sloan Creek, Willow Springs students, they can sit in that student section on the south end of the home stands, and we will have administrators there. And the Sloan Creek students, they can sit in that student section, but parent guardian needs to accompany them to the game, right? No drop-offs. And then ninth through 12th grade's really smooth down at the north end, and we're not really going to mess with that at all. But they need to be in that high school student section with their campus administration. And the big thing here that you'll notice when we go into the Leopard Friday game, we'll have some extra support behind the stands and the grassy area by the playground. And Student Nutrition's partnered with us to have some stanchions and just more organization for the concessions lines. But we'll be reminding our students, we don't want to be in big groups, unsupervised. Obviously, we wouldn't want to do anything and throw anything or do any behavior that, is not approved. And so you'll just notice, I think, just additional staff members behind the stands helping us out. Just to add on, and that's really the only thing that we just need the community's help with, so we can all partner together to make sure that we're having a great experience on Fridays. And then Leopard Friday, to end, extremely excited about another, what's sure to be a great Leopard Friday. 5 p.m. start time on Friday, October 4th in the LHS courtyard. And the booths are there, food trucks have been planned, just a great over logistical and security plan. And then at 6 p.m. as the event's going on, that's when we go into our Leopard Friday Community Pep Rally. You'll hear from Principal Wheeler, Superintendent Cordell, see performances from fine arts, things like that, and we'll have a DJ there. And then, as the pep rally goes, the vision is really to have the whole community kind of walk into Leopard Stadium and support them against what's going to be a huge game against Melissa High School, right? Who's we're both 2-0 in district, and that should be really fun too. So, and obviously the game starts at 7:30. So, those are the updates. Thank you.
Travis, are we trying to get all the events in the Lovejoy app, or is it just there's so many events that it's too big of an undertaking?
Really, all fine arts and athletics events should be in the app.
Go to a different organization. We have nearly all, I think we have pretty much all the events in there.
Sounds
There are
good.
different calendars, just like different schools.
All right.
So I guess the only thing worse than standing between the board and lunch is standing between the board and the opportunity to close out the night. So I'm going to give a brief District Support Services Cabinet update. We've talked about the Natatorium pool bubble covering a few times, but I wanted to shed a little light on that and bring some before and after photos. These are some of the seams that we've had fail numerous times. You can see some of the repair jobs there that are a little bit lighter compared to some of those that are still problematic. And then here are the latest repairs that were completed. Those have been done this semester in August and again in September. And so we continue to work through those challenges over there and continue to work with our vendor that we have here in North Texas. But I just wanted to bring those forward. We've talked about them a handful of times. And this is probably one of my favorite. We talk about lift stations, so I want to make sure I bring a shot of a lift station so that you could see. We've recently replaced pumps at both at Sloan, at the high school, and over at Willow. And so that's what a failed pump looks like there on the left. And there's, it's hard to make out, but there's a brand new one that was dropped in over there on the right-hand side. But just wanted to show you those. Those are absolutely critical for the operation of our campuses. It's not something we talk about a lot, but when they fail, it really becomes problematic. So I just wanted to bring those forward tonight. And then Anna had mentioned earlier about those planning days and how critical they are for our staff, especially our school marshal team. This was last Monday. The marshals were up working on some precision shooting at the range, and so they really take advantage of those days where they've got an opportunity to get out in the field and hone their skill. And then the very last thing I wanted to showcase is an opportunity for us potentially to go into a partnership with the City of Lucas. The City of Lucas and Lovejoy have an opportunity, again, potentially, to partner with a drone program moving forward in the next, I'd call it a couple months. And so what's unique about this drone program that would supplement our current drone program is that the technology there would allow the school district and the City of Lucas to operate this particular drone remotely. And so you wouldn't necessarily have to be present and on the ground. You could do it from a computer, from home, from the office, even from out of town if you got into a circumstance. But the redundancy of having multiple people trained in the event that we needed to put a drone in the air would really be an advantage to the district, along with like our big outdoor activities like Leopard Friday coming up, football games, different things that we have going on from a proactive standpoint. There's night vision capability. And then anytime that we needed to respond to a situation, it would also really cut down on the response time where we could get to really from the fire station to one of our campuses in a matter of just a few minutes. Traffic wouldn't be an impact. And so this is something that I just wanted to put on your radar. There'll be more information to come as we get further down the road. But I just wanted to make sure that I lifted that up, that partnership or potential partnership between Lovejoy and the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. I just want to lift up my gratitude for the High School Student Superintendent Council and just highlight a recent conversation that we had. We met this week, and that group consists of 9th through 12th graders. There are 4 from each grade level, so there's 20 of them. Most of those students join us in 9th grade and then matriculate up through the grade levels, which is great because they become pretty comfortable with us and we become pretty comfortable with them, and so they're willing to share their feedback and insights from a student perspective. Mr. Wheeler, the high school principal, joins me at those meetings, as does Rodrika Taylor, and I'm grateful for that. And the focus of our last meeting was setting our goals for the year and reflecting back on last school year in terms of what they felt like was most meaningful. We did have a pretty in-depth conversation about cell phone use at the high school level and its impact on learning and on safety, and so we are going to commit to continuing that discussion with the high school students. It speaks volumes about their maturity. They talked about some of the classrooms they're in and some of the wonderful job that some of our teachers are doing setting parameters and having consistent policies that they reinforce in a way that the students know that it's important to have that level of compliance and adherence to that because it does impact the quality of the experience that they're having in the classroom. So we appreciate that. I do question them a little bit, though. We asked what they most valued from last year, and they certainly loved working with the kindergarten students, but they also said they appreciated the conversations we had with them regarding the budget and state funding and what was going on there. And they said that they wanted more information about things that are impacting them as students. and that it helped them understand the transition from an 8-period day to a 7-period day. And so they, a couple of them knew we were going to be having a legislative session starting here in January, and so they asked to continue to be apprised of that situation and how it might potentially affect them as students. So we very much appreciate that group and look forward to continuing to provide you with updates and maybe even having them here to provide you with updates directly.
Thank you for that, Ms. Cordell. Any public comments related to non-agenda items tonight? None? All right, we would be adjourned.